Good evening. Yeah. me. Got to warm up for a second, sorry. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to April 23rd Board of Commissioner meeting, 6:30 p.m. Please join me in our opening ceremonies. We will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence to give thanks and praise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with the agenda. Does anybody have any amendments or adjustments to the agenda?
I do have some adjustments to the agenda today. My first requested change is presentation. I'd like to make a presentation under section G. And for old business, I would like to change the order so that the WMTP goes first. Those are all my changes.
And what exactly was the presentation thing?
I have a presentation to address Mr. Graham.
Very well. Can I get a motion to adopt this amended agenda?
Motion to adopt the amended agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is so adopted. We will continue with general public comments. Looks like we have 4 people that have signed up. We'll start with an Alan Privette. Alan Privette, please step forward. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Keep them polite. Direct them to the board as a whole, no individual member.
A few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak again. After the last meeting, I really didn't have any big problems with construction of new homes and stuff in that area, other than the fact that, making sure the roads were going to hold up. We did get the road paved today, which is a long time coming, getting that thing fixed. But anyway, my biggest issue was on this economic development corridor, and the fact that riding around Union County, and I have seen hardly zilch for economic development corridor in front of hardly any new residential developments. Personally, I think if I was Mel Graham, I would rather have homes in there that I know that I can sell instead of trying to rent facilities out, because sometimes renting, a building out to a company and keeping a long-term lease is somewhat problematic. Plus the fact, I do feel like it will reduce the value of our homes if that was to be in there, because the thing is when you live over there close, you go by Helms Road about every day, and you see what a lot of economic development is, that's not pretty. And granted, that's going to change when they do the extension and bring it around, but I don't think it'll change that much. So I would rather personally not see economic development in there, commercial value, because of the fact that it just increases the traffic that's not necessary. And the other thing is it would actually reduce the value of the homes, even those that he builds and stuff. So that would be my biggest issue, and I would encourage the board to make adjustments on the recommendations for the planning for that. It would be the first one that I found, and there may be others around Union County, but I haven't seen them. That doesn't mean I go everywhere. So that would be what I would like to see y'all do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mary Lou Romano.
again. After the last meeting, I was really kind of surprised by the Enquirer-Journal finding out that Mr. Graham did not want the economic or the environmental zoning that was planned by the planning board, or asked him to do it. Looking at 521, looking at the expressway, parkway possibly not being done, all these other roads that they've decided they're not going to increase for years now. The corridor that they say that's there isn't really there. And I was looking up for even 521 today. There's no plans for a lot of the corridor for that area. So I think the economic center is it's just not warranted right now. It's just not prepared for it right now. Also, when you were talking about schools, and you'll say, Mr. Wells said, well, that's Union County. I sent an article to you guys all about that was written last year, and the Union County School Board talked about how Waxhaw is foolish undertaking in its growth and these high density, and how they have a bond that was set, and that is being used to increase other schools, to add to the older schools, to increase construction, to fix things that need already fixing in the pipeline. And this woman in here and another gentleman said they are not going to not do these things because we are affecting all of Union County with this high density growth. We're going to take money from somebody else so that we can have a cluster of schools built, because those schools, they've flat out said, are going to be needed. We have over 3,000 homes approved. Where are you going to put these children? And they flat out said there's not another bond referendum up. They're not going to not do other projects because Waxhaw is being foolish and I'm going to affect everybody else. And I'm not going to fix these old schools that these kids are going to, so that we can build some new affluent schools for this affluent community of Waxhaw. When not everybody in Union County is an affluent community and has, the means to fix their schools and everything else. And we're dependent on Union County. We're part of Union County. We're not just Waxhaw. We're not Union County. We're not here alone. Also, it's just the employment centers, the groundwater pollution. And I worry with Heathwood because this is what we're surrounded by. Privette LLC has 68 acres behind us. McLaughlin or Kunkelman has another 28 to the side of us. You do this to the west of us, and what's going to happen to the south and the east of us? They're going to ask to be annexed. We're going to have another high density growth. There's no telling what you're going to decide to do with that. And I just feel like I don't know who's benefiting from all this high density you guys keep approving. It's definitely not the residents of Waxhaw. It's definitely not the city of Waxhaw. You're not getting tax dollars from these developments that you're building. They don't sustain themselves. The tax dollars you're getting from this high growth is not covering the cost that it's costing you to give these high densities. So please, when you vote on this tonight, think about that. Think about this, all of this, and how you're affecting not just Waxhaw, but the whole county of Union County.
I appreciate your comments.
Sorry, I'm nervous when I talk in front of people, and I've been on vacation for 2 weeks, so I didn't have a lot of time. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your time.
Thank you. Next up, Earl Cook.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, staff, and audience. Thank you. My name is Earl Cook. I am a 20-and-1/2 year resident of Waxhaw. So I have seen the growth from when nothing was open after 5 o'clock through a 10-fold population increase. So I am very familiar with what's happened in Waxhaw. I have found myself serving Waxhaw in many ways for close to 15 years. The Main Street program had actually started as Small Street Main Street here in September of 2009. So I am intimate with what that program is. I have served on every committee. the OAB, the Economic Recovery Committee, and all of the others. And although I've never worked in this community, nor state, nor had a business here, I have served as the president of the Waxhaw Business Association. So growth in Waxhaw I'm familiar with, but I'm not talking about any development tonight. I saw something on the agenda that disturbed me. The grant facade program. When the grant facade program started, it would have been around 2010. The first allocation was $7,000. The purpose of that was to help business owners improve the downtown look. Waxhaw was run down, had closed stores. The idea was to improve the facade. There was an economic benefit to that. By improving the facade, you would bring shoppers, tourists, visitors, and you could quantify and qualify that. Watching that happen, it grew over the years. I don't know what it is now, but I did watch it grow to multiple tens of thousands of dollars, and I was happy to be part of that. What I see today is a recommendation to change the name to a building improvement. Here's my concern. I am a property owner just like each of you in this community. We all pay our taxes according to the assessed tax rate. The landowners throughout Waxhaw, and that includes North and South Main Street, they pay their taxes according to the assessed tax rate. But to change it, the recommendation was to include repairing the roof. I personally received no help nor financial aid when I had to put a new roof on my house year before last. I do not understand how any person coming into Waxhaw is going to see the roof of one of our downtown buildings. Therefore, why are we going to use taxpayer money to do that? Those landlords run a business, and their business includes maintenance of their building. Now, one of the things that struck me, what are we going to do with that money if we're giving it to other property owners? Are we going to divide some of it up and give it back to us? No. But there is a place you could give it. Later tonight, you're going to recognize the future. And by the future, I mean students from Cuthbertson Middle and High School. They are state champions in the Odyssey of the Mind competition. They are state champions that will be going to the World Finals in Ames, Iowa at the end of May. Most folks have no idea that over the last several years, Waxhaw has turned out state champions from each of the high schools, including the elementary. It's all volunteer. It's not part of the curriculum.
Sorry to cut you off, but we are at time.
Give the money to the Odyssey of the Mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. Next up, Joe Lapos, sorry. It's an A.
Close enough. Lapos. I live at 1401 Old Providence Road. You guys most of you know me. But today, with all due respect to those who serve past and present, I felt with the proposal for a land annexation and rezoning by a relative of Reverend Billy Graham of Charlotte, who is arguably the greatest Christian evangelist of our times, that this moment in time be deemed appropriate to ask the Waxhaw BOC to bring an opening prayer back to our meetings. I share with you a speech made on June 23rd, 1787 by Benjamin Franklin. He said, "The small progress we have made after 4 or 5 weeks of close attendance and continual reasonings with each other, having different sentiments on almost every question, several producing as many noes as ayes, methinks it melancholy proof of the imperfection of the human understanding. We indeed seem to feel our own want of political wisdom since we have been running about in search of it. We have gone back in ancient history for models of government and examined the different forms of those republics which, having been formed with the seeds of their own dissolution, that they no longer exist. In the situation of this assembly, groping as it were in the dark to find political truth, how has it happened that we have not hitherto, even once, thought of humbly appealing to the Father of Lights to illuminate our understandings. In the beginning of the contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room here in Philadelphia for the divine protection. Our prayers were heard, and they were graciously answered. All of us who were engaged in the struggle must have observed frequent instances of a superintending providence to our favor. To that kind providence we own this happy opportunity to consult in peace the means of establishing our future national felicity. Have we now forgotten that powerful friend, or do we imagine that we no longer need his assistance? I have lived a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. If a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We have been assured in the sacred writings that unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain that build it. I firmly believe this, and I also believe that without his concurring aid, we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel. We shall be divided by our little partial interests. Our projects will be confounded, and we ourselves shall become a reproach and a byword down to future age. And what is worse, mankind may hereafter, from this unfortunate instance, despair of establishing governments by human wisdom, and leave it to chance, war, and conquest. I therefore beg leave to move that henceforth prayers imploring the assistance of heaven and its blessings on our deliberations be held in this assembly every morning before we proceed to business, and that one more of the clergy of this city be requested to officiate in that service. Sincerely, Benjamin Franklin. Franklin's request was enacted 2 years later in 1789. Since that day, the United States Congress opens every legislative day with prayer. In the state of North Carolina, every session day is open with prayer. In Union County, North Carolina, every session day is open with prayer. Certainly, the town of Waxhaw, North Carolina, should open every session day with prayer. Thank you. May God bless our town, and let's vote with our conscience today. Thank you.
Amen. That concludes tonight's public comments. Next up, I'd like to get a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda is so adopted. Next up, we have recognitions. We have a Miss Autumn Bell. Apparently, we have Odyssey of the Mind with us tonight. Seems a strange coincidence.
Hello.
Thank you. Ms. Autumn Bell,
Yes,
tell us a little bit about Odyssey of the Mind.
I will. Sure. So why don't we? Do you guys want to just stand right there, or maybe go back against the wall over there so people can see? Okay. So I've been coaching Odyssey of the Mind for 7 years now. My daughter started in the 4th grade, and I've been hooked as a coach ever since. Odyssey of the Mind is a 42-year-old program. It was started by Sam Miklas in New Jersey, and he used to create these challenges for his college students. And he would reward them for being extra creative, anything that would you think outside the box to create a solution that is just extraordinary. It became so popular that it was brought into the elementary, middle, and high schools in New Jersey. Now it's in every school in every state and in up to 30 different countries, just depending on the year. COVID really kind of changed that for us, but I think this year there's going to be at least 10 different countries that are represented there. So my older team, my high school team, has made it to World Finals every year for 7 years, which is just really, really, really remarkable. And I can honestly say I don't know of very many teams who get the opportunity to go once or twice. So you're looking at some really extraordinary kids over there. Last year we had the honor of being a buddy team with a team from Shanghai. we still keep in touch. We got to like show them around, take them to restaurants, exchange gifts, just really had an opportunity to kind of show them and make them feel welcome and comfortable in the country. And that was really special. We've definitely signed up to do that again this year. It was really a very rewarding experience for us. But the kids have been working hard. They're required to basically create a solution to a problem, and it's their interpretation. They have a rubric of things they need to follow, but they need to come up with the most creative interpretation and solution to this problem. They've been working since September, October, diligently working on this problem. So that's 2/3 of their score, and then the other third is improv. So they walk into a room. I don't get to come with them. What goes on in that room stays in the room. They're not allowed to talk about it, but they're given a prompt. They've got to say something clever about this. They need to build something that can hold the most weight. It's kind of the roll of the dice. They don't know what they're going to get. So not only can they practice on something for a long period of time, but it's something that they need to be able to handle just on, right then and there. They need to be able to try to figure out the best solutions to those problems as well. So, what you're seeing are kids who are challenged with problem-solving skills. They're creative. They have to have public speaking skills. They need to be able to just think outside the box. And this team, in addition to a number of other teams in the area, we're going to try going into a non-profit organization and help them problem solve on ways to improve their organization. So, I love this because it's taking their skills that they've been working on and using it in a real world type of situation. So, stay tuned. I'll let you know how that goes.
Can you summarize what this year's question is that they've been working on?
Yeah, sure. So there's two different teams. I have a middle school team. They are the vehicle challenge. So they had to build their own vehicle that has to accomplish a number of tasks. So it has to be able to go a certain number of feet. It needs to be able to go in reverse. It needs to be able to ring a bell, like acquire a ticket. It has the theme of like a drive-in movie theater. And so you guys waved. That's my middle school guys. And then the high school team, it's a rock theme. So they are on tour. It gets derailed, and then they have to use music in some way to get themselves back on track. So definitely like the more technical side and the more theatrical side. So Odyssey of the Mind has a lot of different types of problems you can do to really do what you're interested in.
That's great.
So I had just a couple kids wanted to say hi. We'll be brief, but Eden Shaw is going to start us off.
Hello everyone. I'm absolutely honored to be speaking about Odyssey of the Mind with you here, and I'd just like to take my time to tell you why I think Odyssey of the Mind is so important for our future and I think this generation. The main thing that Odyssey of the Mind kind of promotes is creativity. Just the idea of creativity is first and foremost. It's just, you get a few guidelines and then you have an absolute sandbox to be as creative as you want and, unleash your creative potential. And I've been doing it for 7 years now, and I've been to 3 competitions, 3 times 7. I've done this 20 plus competitions, so I really know how this works, and I've been doing this for a while, and I've been very creative, and I think that I feel like anything that I come up with in my head, I feel like there's a room for that in Odyssey of the Mind. And I recently got into filmmaking in high school, and I've been making films since then, and I've been using what I have in Odyssey of the Mind. We do stage stuff, we do acting, all of that, and I've been using it in filmmaking. And I recently got 2nd place at a film festival, and they cited my creativity as one of the main reasons why they gave that. So I think the thing that's most important about Odyssey of the Mind is you can take those skills that you have from Odyssey of the Mind and apply it to anything else. Anything, like any skill that you have in the world, it requires creativity. You can't make an argument for why some skill that you need in the world doesn't require creativity. And Odyssey of the Mind is just the perfect outlet for that. and it's helped me, and I imagine it'll help everyone else here in their future endeavors. So just spreading the word about this amazing club and its impact on everyone, I think is really, really great. I thank you so much for the time that you've allotted out of your busy schedule for us to talk about this, and thank you so much. I really love Odyssey of the Mind. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person coming up will be Viraj Gupta.
Hi everyone, I'm Viraj Gupta. This is my 9th year doing Odyssey of the Mind, so I've been in this organization for a while, and I can say it's probably the best thing I've ever done in my life. I tell you that. Well, Odyssey of the Mind has taught me so much. I started in 3rd grade. I used to be a kid who put his hands in his pockets, didn't talk to people. I had no technical experience. I didn't know how to do much. But over the years, over the 9 years I've been doing this program, I've learned so much. I've learned how to build sets, wire things. I've learned how to act, make scripts, and so much more. Come up with creative ideas on the spot, and that's helped me so much with spontaneous thinking, all that. And in doing all that, I've actually, just like Eden said, I've discovered my passion for engineering, technology, things that we have previously done in Odyssey of the Mind. So that's just a really good organization, and I feel like anyone who goes into this program will feel accomplished, will feel like they learned something, they'll have fun. You meet awesome people in your team, you meet awesome people when you compete, you just broaden your perspective on everything. You learn so much, and that's just what Odyssey of the Mind's all about. So yeah.
Thank you.
And next person speaking will be Katie.
So, Odyssey of the Mind, it's a fantastic experience. You come together with a bunch of people, some of them you may have known, some of them you have not. You come together, you let your creativity flow, you interconnect with each other, and you can extend your horizons beyond that. You encounter all sorts of people who just want to have a good time. There's people that are serious about it. There's every type of person that you can find in Odyssey of the Mind. It's really just an overall great experience. You can bring out pretty much any aspect of your personality there. So there's the technical people, there's the creative people, there's the loud and excited ones. There's all the people that just come together and flow into one team. And it doesn't matter what team you're on, but what matters is that you have a great experience. There's all the people. You have so many people just coming together, just to have a good time and show off what they can do, and that it's brought us to me and some other people I know to new heights. You can go from just a person who doesn't know where they belong to someone who can just go to a world competition, like we are. It's over, so it allows you to get opportunities you never would before in many other things. There's really nothing else to it.
I'm suddenly very hopeful about our future.
Absolutely, yes. Yep.
Thank you very much.
You are now hopeful about your future. You were welcome.
That's it. Those are the ones that wanted to get up and say something, so we do appreciate your time. This is wonderful. We'll be traveling to Ames, Iowa in May 21st, and we'll be at Iowa State University competing with finalists from all over the country and other countries. So
outstanding.
We'll let you know how we do. Yeah.
Look forward to hearing about it. Thank you. Please.
Please don't sue us.
It's part of the skit.
Thank you, kids. Great job. It's definitely impressive to see a young mind approach a microphone and speak in public like that, so hats off to them. Thank you. You too. Alrighty. Next up we have Miss Dina. Something about girls on the run? Oh, jeez. She'll figure it out. Nope.
Hello and good evening. I'm here tonight to celebrate a wonderful donation from our friends with Girls on the Run. Tonight we would like to give y'all a heads up on a $3,500 donation for the Smile trailer. That is our inclusive trailer that we will have at events and programs. We are working on getting that all souped up, ready for this summer. And this trailer means a lot to a lot of our families in Waxhaw and beyond. And the Girls on the Run team noticed that mission of inclusion for all, as they do for the girls as well. So we are super excited for this donation for the for supplies and equipment that will go along with the trailer, and we wanted to celebrate them tonight for doing that for us and our community. And the motion on the table is to give the town manager able to accept the donation from the Girls on the Run, and you have already had that budget amendment in your consent agenda. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those, and Ms. Nicole's here with me as well if you have any questions for us.
And this is to add more features and sort of bells and whistles to that Smile trailer?
Yes, sir. So we will have like equipment in the trailer itself, but then we also have equipment that will go with the participant, and they're fidget toys, things like that. And then we'll also have earphones or some smaller ear protection that helps the person calm down faster too, because of just the sensory overload that events can cause sometime. But this way the whole family can come to the event. For example, I couldn't come to an event when Anna was small because it was too much of a sensory overload. So my husband would take the boys and I would stay home with her. If I had this opportunity, I would have had a safe space for her to go to. And this is helping with that safe space.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you. So we
Go
have
far.
a picture. Ms. Nicole, would you like to say anything?
No, this is in thanks and in gratitude for your guys' support and the town of Waxhaw always partnering with us and allowing us to host our race here every
Well, thank you
winter.
to Girls on the Run for all the work you do raising this money and helping support programs that we're trying to get through the town. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
We have to make a motion.
It's later down. Oh, it was in the consent agenda.
Okay.
The adoption or the acceptance of that. It's item 3. Miss Dina, once again, we have a service award.
I do, Miss Amy. Come on up. Woo-hoo. All right.
She made me come.
So, Miss Amy Merrill has been with the town for 10 years, and we're celebrating her 10-year service award with us tonight. I wanted to give you a heads up on her journey of these 10 years. So she started off in permitting, events and program, stole her from permitting. Sorry, Miss Lisa. And then that was in 2014. She started out her journey. In 16, she went over to events and promotions. And 15 is when the Park and Rec department was formed. And so she came over with events then. We did a lot of brainstorming then because I'm a big component of what do you want to be when you grow up? And through that journey, she was like, let's figure out what program's all about. So she became our first program coordinator for the town. And she went on that journey for a couple years. And 2021, she became one of our park maintenance crew as well, because she was like, let's see what they're doing outside, and so we could figure out what's going on in the parks. This past year, she was promoted to our downtown park manager. She is the perfect person for this position because she has the events side, she has the program side, she has the park maintenance side. So she is basically our unicorn for our downtown park. So you will see wonderful and great things from Miss Amy for her next adventure into that park. So I can't say enough wonderful things about her, and I'm so blessed to have her on our team.
Thank you, Amy.
I just have to say, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have a great community and staff and board members to work for. I love everybody, and this is an awesome town, and I love Waxhaw, and I love working for Waxhaw.
Thank you, Amy.
I'm proud of Waxhaw, like everybody else.
Thank you, Amy. Look forward to seeing you out at the park. Wait, Dina, wait. Something about the recognition of someone in particular? About a week of some sort, maybe?
What'd I do? I think Jeff's doing that.
Parks and Rec Director to invite the recognition, adopt the proclamation of Municipal Clerks Week.
That's Jeff.
Oh, that's
Jeff doing that?
no.
Sorry.
So I was like, sorry.
All right, clerks, come on up here.
Dun, dun, dun.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board. So early May 5th through May 11th, is Municipal Clerks Week. This will be the 55th annual Municipal Clerks Week. The office of the municipal clerk is the oldest profession among civil servants. The first employee of any municipality is almost always the clerk. In fact, I can't think of any example where it wasn't, but I've heard there is one or two of those somewhere. So I do have a short, I promise, a little short reading of history about clerking that I'll share with the board, and then there will be a requested motion to approve a proclamation. So the municipal clerk is the oldest profession of public service servants in local government. The profession dates back before biblical times. The early keepers of archives, known as, quote, remembrancers, and before writing came into use, their memory served as the public record. The clerk is a statutory position imposed by the North Carolina General Assembly. The municipal clerk came to mean a scholar. They serve as a notary, secretary, accountant, and recorder. The office of the clerk is an important part of the machinery of local government. They serve as a direct link between citizens of the community and their town government. They are the historians of the community for the entire recorded history of the town and its people in his or her care. The municipal clerk provides support to the Board of Commissioners by issuing public notifications of meetings, preparing agendas and minutes for all meetings, and maintaining a recorded history of board actions. Other responsibilities of the clerk are to maintain and preserve permanent records, coordinate and fulfill responses to citizens on public records requests, and provide administrative support for Waxhaw's advisory boards and commissions. The eminent political scientist, Professor William Bennett Monroe, writing in one of the first textbooks of municipal administration circa 1934, stated, "No other office in municipal service has so many contracts. It serves the mayor, the city council, the city manager, and all administrative departments without exception. All of them call upon it almost daily for some service or information. Its work is not spectacular, but it demands versatility, alertness, accuracy, and no end of patience. The public does not realize how many loose ends of city administration this office pulls together." And I just want to say on behalf of town management how appreciative your management is of our clerk staff. We have a staff that is second to none. Fantastic, and they keep us all straight up at Town Hall every single day. It's a joy to work with them. It's a pleasure every day. So just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. Now we would request the board adopt the proclamation for Municipal Clerks Week.
Motion to adopt proclamation PRO 2024-006 in support of Professional Municipal Clerks Week of May 5th through 11th, 2024.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. I just want to say, as the new kid in town, I appreciate having skilled and versatile clerks to go to. You guys have been pretty instrumental in making this an easy transition, so thank you.
We thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to serve you and serve the citizens of Waxhaw. We really enjoy what we do. We enjoy being here, and Waxhaw is my family and Brandy's family. We all are a team that is built on trust, respect, and we honor each and every one of them.
Thank you. So we have one more recognition. Miss Wendy Davenport, please come forward. I think we have an award that someone has won. Or shall I say earned?
Earned. Good evening. I'm just going to announce the winners from our annual employee awards that we held on April 11th. And we have these awards each year. We have 7 categories. We had 6 this year to actually win. And we had the most we've ever had. It's our 7th year, and we had over 30 peer nominations for each other. So I'm really proud of that. So, and most of them are here, some may not be, but if you are, just wave if I call out your name. First was Emily Learned. She's not here, she's on vacation somewhere exotic. And she won our customer service award. It's not moving, Matt. There you go. Our leadership award, very proud to say, went to James. We can give him a hand. I appreciate it. James Kelly. Professional Development Award. There you go, Matt. Professional Development Award went to Janet Pirano. There's James right there. He must have skipped one. James Kelly, let's do it again. One more time. Thank you, James. He deserves 2 rounds. The team award went to Madison Miller, Janet Pirano, Lauren LaFond, and Blair Israel Planning. And of course, that's Lisa by default, but she nominated them, so that's why she wasn't included in the actual name, the reward. Department Head of the Year went to Dexter Wilson, Chief Wilson. See here, there it is. And then our final was our Sunny Splone Employee of the Year award went to Matt Falkenberry. And I told him he better stick his head in here and wave. There you go. So that's it. I wanted to congratulate all of them and thank you all for was able to make it. I know previous years others have, so maybe next year we'll see all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, one and all. Thank you. Okay, next up, presentations. Jason Hall, you have a presentation, please.
I do. I have a presentation this evening for where I'd like to address Mr. Graham. Mr. Graham, thank you for attending our town meetings and for your active engagement with our community. As a municipal government, we value open dialogue with our residents, believing it essential for informed decision-making. Unfortunately, during our last meeting on April 9th, this spirit of dialogue was marred by an unacceptable personal attack directed at your family from a member of the public who doesn't live within the town of Waxhaw. For this, I am deeply sorry. As a commissioner in our small southern town, I may only play a small role, but it is our responsibility to ensure the town meetings are conducted with respect and dignity. The failure to immediately address and rectify the situation was a misstep on our part. For the disrespect shown to your family and for our inactions, I offer my sincere apologies. Moving forward, I am committed to making sure such an oversight does not happen again. We will be discussing and implementing measures to maintain decorum and respect for all at our town meetings. Mr. Graham, I took this opportunity to learn more about your family's contributions and your history, which have deeply enriched our community. Your father, Melvin Sr., was a remarkable man. Born August 25th, 1924, he worked on the family dairy farm starting at age 13. That farm is now the site of Park Road Shopping Center, a place where many of us have fond memories, including my personal favorite of an Italian gelato shop that once stood there. It's now a Jenny's Ice Cream. Your father was also a charter member and elder of what is today known as the Cavalry Church, founded in 1934. The global community remembers him fondly as well. Terry Wold recalls, "I will always remember Mr. Melvin riding his tractor with his hair blowing in the breeze. When he wasn't on his tractor, I would see him sitting in his Chevy truck, usually in the morning. And as a little girl, I always thought he was sleeping. I found out years later that he was reading his Bible and praying." Eddie Shaw Harwell remembers his warm smile and how, as a child, she admired his work ethic and even feared his bull. Sandra McCorkle praises his genuine nature and his gift for connecting with people, particularly through his ministry. These testimonials speak volumes of the legacy your family has built here. Indeed, your uncle, Billy Graham, and your family are highly regarded, not just in Union County, but globally, a sentiment echoed by President Donald Trump. The scripture in Ephesians 4:31-32 reminds us, "Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another." I want to share a thought from my oldest daughter, who, like many here, holds your family in high regard. She said, "Not under this roof. We're all God's children here." This encapsulates our community's ethos and our commitment to each other. Thank you, Mr. Graham, for allowing me the opportunity to apologize on behalf of our town. We value and respect your family and are grateful for all that you contribute to our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Next up, we have old business. Miss Janet Perano.
Doing the master plan.
Oh, that's right. I have that there. Thank you very much for the reminder. So we will start with Mr. James Kelly. We have the presentation about the Master Transportation Plan.
Well, good evening. Just giving you an update. This is coming back to you for third time now. The focus tonight will be specifically on approving the updated project tier prioritizations. To give some background, we engaged the community through multiple different means and methods, particularly targeting a social media blitz to help inform the community ahead of these workshops, holding 4 in-person workshops at the Waxhaw Police Department, as well as having an online survey for people to respond. And that survey was available for a minimum of 30 days. Approximately, we had 685 responses to the survey. Ultimately, the goal of the survey, as well as the community engagement, was to help educate the community about the Waxhaw Master Transportation Plan process and the transportation challenges and constraints that are ultimately inherent to this planning process. Input received helps establish local transportation priorities and will better relay the community's preferences for additional funding options. So we've already went over that. Again, the focus this evening is on the project prioritizations. So of the 7 projects, of the 7 unfunded projects, let me clarify, so these are all projects that are currently unfunded. There is a multitude of projects that are currently funded throughout the town. I believe one of the previous gentlemen brought up Helms Road Extension. That work is being done right now. Completed part of Phase 1 is the Torrey Path connection that ties into the southern end of Millbridge. That is an NCDOT and CSX railroad project that is done through the North Carolina Department of Transportation Rail Unit. So that is Phase 1 of the project. Phase 2 of the project is to ultimately provide a flyover bridge across 75 on the western side to connect it to 75. Our number 1 project is Waxhaw Parkway East, according to the community's input. To provide the board with a concise update of recent events regarding the Waxhaw Parkway, both the town of Mineral Springs and Union County have proposed removing the parkway from regional planning at their board meetings. So that is the most recent update from those 2 municipalities. Ultimately, Waxhaw's efforts to advance the project's programming persist, underscoring the importance of Waxhaw Parkway in maintaining the town's historical character, alleviating traffic congestion that hinders local businesses, and ensuring the well-being and safety of the community. It is our number 1 project, and therefore we must move to get it programmed. As far as the second project, which is Helms Road Extension, so this project would tie into the current CSX and NCDOT rail projects. Note that this would be a good project, an ideal project for CRTPO grant funding, and you may say, well, why not your number 1 project? Well, when you're looking at CRTPO grant funding options, there is a limit to the amount of requested funds that you can apply for annually. So Waxhaw Parkway would exceed that limit. So for example, last year the requested amount that you could apply for was up to $12.7 million. This number could change annually depending upon the available funding. We'll know for certain what that available funding is in June, July of this year. So ultimately, Helms Road Extension being number 2 project and under that threshold would be an ideal candidate to proceed with this fall with an increased local match. Number 3 is Waxhaw, Marvin, and Gray Byram. This project will consist of intersection improvements such as turn lanes and potential signalization, assuming that we can get NCDOT agreements there. Number 4 is moving towards Waxhaw Marvin corridor. So this would upgrade the existing roadway to a 3-lane section and include a multi-use path to provide pedestrian connectivity downtown and to surrounding not only just neighborhoods, but ultimately tie into schools and other facilities as well. Finally, number 5 was Waxhaw, Marvin, and Kensington. Again, just intersection improvements there. That intersection is already signalized. So as from a capacity standpoint, looking in future years, that intersection would likely warrant an additional northbound left turn lane. So you're looking at 2 northbound left turn lanes there, as well as 2 eastbound left turn lanes as well. Now, even though Millbridge and Kensington and Lawson and Cuthbertson fell below the top 5 line, these are still valuable projects, and particularly these projects are traffic signalization improvements that met warrants from DOT and federal warrants as well. So ultimately, these are low-hanging options that should be considered. because they will help bring safety improvements along that corridor. Particularly, signals are really good at mitigating some of that angled collision. So that's something that we're particularly looking at, because from a safety standpoint, where do the large portion of your collisions occur? They occur predominantly in left turn movements at uncontrolled intersections. So these two projects would be very valuable, and we have already recently, last week, received support from the Millbridge HOA. We are going to move toward the Lawson HOA to see if they are also supportive of this process, and if so, then we will move toward designing those signals, as well as showing the HOAs any potential right-of-way impacts, and then move towards the ultimate project funding, assuming that the community is supportive of the process. So from the WMTP project prioritization standpoint, Tier 1 and Tier 2 projects are evaluated with an annual review of the capital improvement program, and any changes to these tiers must go to the board, you all, for adoption. So just to keep track of these projects on the screen right now are projects that are currently in Tier 1 and have been programmed. So I'm not saying necessarily that we should remove them altogether. It's a good idea, or at least it's a valuable idea, to keep track of where those projects currently stand within the process. So we are proposing to move those to a program tier, and to show that those projects are moving forward. So those projects consist of intersection improvements at NC 16 and 75, Broome Street Center turn lane improvements. Those are programmed and scheduled for fiscal year 2028. We recently went to the regional boards to amend that. That was previously fiscal year 2029. We're going to go ahead and up that schedule to 2028. Other projects include some pedestrian improvements, such as Alma Boulevard, Kingston Drive, and Red Oaks Trail crosswalks. We're currently in the process of ordering RRFB, or rectangular rapid flashing beacon supplies, for installation at Red Oaks and Kingston Drive. And then Alma Boulevard in particular has already been planned for signal upgrades, signal and pedestrian upgrades, as identified TIA mitigations from traffic impact analysis. Waxhaw Marvin at Bonds Grove Church Road, a lot of people comment on this project, and this is currently outside of Waxhaw limits. With that said, the project has been programmed. The issue is that the Village of Marvin, this project may be delayed if they are unable to secure their local match funding, but I believe that they are working towards making sure that that project stays on schedule. It's about a 5-year timeline on that. Also, Waxhaw Marvin at Pine Oak Road, these have been identified as TIA mitigations as well. So as far as Tier 1 and Tier 2 project prioritizations, Tier 1 is that chart there on the top. These are your top 5 projects that we talked about previously: Waxhaw Parkway East, Helms Road Extension, Waxhaw Marvin at Gray Byram, Waxhaw Marvin Corridor, and the Waxhaw Marvin Road at Kensington Drive. So Waxhaw Parkway East was originally in Tier 1, and we're proposing that to remain within Tier 1 and move towards a focus on project programming. Similar with Helms Road Extension, and then applying for a DA grant application this fall. And then based on community input, those other 3 were previously in Tier 2. Based upon the community engagement period, we are moving those up to Tier 1. As far as Tier 2 projects, there were multiple pedestrian projects that we're going to keep for plan consistency. I will note that the WMTP is not necessarily the best mechanism for comparing or analyzing these pedestrian projects to vehicular projects, but it is a good idea to at least keep the plans consistent, so that way you have plan consistency across the board. The better tool for this would ultimately be the pedestrian plan that we have, as well as other adopted plans as well. Based on community input, we've added the Millbridge Kensington traffic signal and Lawson Cuthbertson traffic signal to Tier 2, and we're moving towards further engagement with the HOAs to ultimately move towards programming if that is the community's desire. So those are the proposed Tier 1 and Tier 2 project prioritizations. With that, I will move toward any questions as well as ask for a motion to adopt the WMTP project tier prioritizations as presented, and ultimately note that staff will move toward updating the WMTP, anticipating a summer adoption timeline, June or July of this year, and we would proceed with the Helms Road Extension Project for CRTPO grant funding this fall. And that's an August timeline with an increased local match. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions from the board? Sir?
So with the recent events at the county and with Mineral Springs, the lack of support from them, they're key partners in the East, Parkway East, right? So for me, not sure that it should be number one anymore.
I would like for Union County and Mineral Springs to at least come to the table. We proposed that to their board to, hey, let's come to the table and talk about Parkway East in particular. They not only refused that offer, but they made a motion to remove the Parkway altogether. Now, with that said, I would still encourage them to come talk to us because it would be good progress to move toward that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, these are NCDOT maintained facilities.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of aspirational to begin with. Like, even if we were all copacetic with it, it would be 30 years away, right? And
assuming that the project is federally
more like
funded, that's
40.
correct. Yeah. I still invite them to the table.
Yeah, so bringing that up, I spent time watching that presentation that James and Matt did, which was wonderful. I was very, very disappointed in the comments made by our county commissioners, and I suggest everyone go watch that presentation. The number one thing people in Waxhaw complain about is traffic, and we have been trying to figure out solutions to our traffic problem going through downtown for years. And the Parkway has been, proposed for, as they've said, over 30 years. And the fact that they were not even willing to bring a representative from the county commissioners to the mediation that the CRTPO was organizing is, well, I'll use a word that Melissa Merrill used, unconscionable. So Commissioner Helms, in his reasoning for not approving this parkway, is he says that we've changed plans to accommodate different residents over the years. New alignments. The new alignment is going to be emptying out at a specific project that could have 6,000 homes, the Polo Grounds. Now, the Polo Grounds is not a project. It has never come to our board. It is not being talked about now. It's not existent right now. So for him to not support this on a project, based on a project that's not existent, that's completely irresponsible. As he said, it'll take 30 years to complete the parkway. At the same time, it would take 30 years to develop this project that he's talking about, that we have no plans for. That's a ridiculous reason to not support the parkway. Also, he says developing the parkway would facilitate growth, and he does not support displacing current residents for new growth and new residents to come into this county. He will not support the potential residential growth this parkway would bring. He agrees a solution is needed, but can't support this plan when we see currently what we have seen currently with the projected growth that will not stop. So as Mr. Cook mentioned earlier, who's been here since 2010, I believe, or somewhere, or you were talking about 2010, and you've seen the growth. What about all the people that were displaced when neighborhoods like Millbridge, Lawson, Curitan, Quellen, those developments, those are all new in the past 10 years, 15 years. So to sit there and say we can't displace residents for a new roadway, that's just not accurate. Now, then we have Commissioner Melissa Merrill. This is what she says. She supports removing it from the CTP because if this has not been figured out in 30 years, I don't know if it's a good project to figure out. To expect this board to mediate to figure out a 31-year problem is unconscionable, and maybe Waxhaw should have thought about this before they started all this growth. Waxhaw created this problem and doesn't think Mineral Springs and others should be affected by another town's decisions. 31 years is long enough. But what about all the people that were in Waxhaw 30 years ago who now have a population that has doubled, tripled? I mean, so to sit there and blame this current board or the past board over growth as a reason not to support a parkway, that's just ridiculous. I mean, and what kind of leadership is that? To sit there and say because this hasn't been figured out in 31 years, we shouldn't figure it out. That's not what we elect leaders for.
Adding 2 points to that,
Yeah.
the CTP is typically a 30-plus year process anyways. So right now, we're on track for a federally funded project. So I agree 31 years is enough. In fact, we should move toward the next step, which is the MTP. And majority of this traffic, 2/3 in fact, in accordance with our origin destination study, is not even from Waxhaw. It is non-local, regional, and commuter trips. So these trips are, majority of which are not even from Waxhaw.
Right, and you also showed support from our police department, our fire department, our downtown Waxhaw Association, and yet none of that mattered to this county commission. They did not care about public safety. They did not care about our businesses downtown. They did not care about the traffic that goes through downtown. All they cared about was the polo grounds, which is non-existent. They do not care about solving our traffic problem because they have bias and bitterness against the town of Waxhaw, and that's what it is. And I would like to ask, so Mayor Murray and Commissioner Daunt represent the CRTPO. Do you support building the parkway? I mean, because you're there representing us at the CRTPO.
I don't support building it without support from key partners like Mineral Springs and the county that's going through their land. So I have them on board.
But they're not willing to talk to us. They're not willing to sit down in mediation and come up with a solution. What other solution do they have for the traffic problem? That's what I want to know.
They don't have a solution. And by the way, you asked if they're on board. They are on board. In fact, I have here from the Waxhaw Meadows, this is one of the subdivisions that is projected to go through. It's on every deed for every home in that community for a Waxhaw Parkway. Now, I don't know when you bought a house. When I bought a house, I look at the deed, I look what's on it, and if there's a parkway going through it, well, I guess I accept that, and I'm going to go ahead and buy the house anyway. So this isn't a mystery. They know it's coming. And they're on board because they paid money for these homes.
The homeowners, supposedly, just because it's on their deed, but what about the governments of the county and the town of Mineral Springs? I mean, do we want to just go ahead anyway?
I think Commissioner Weselick put it very well. What's the solution? They've been kicking the can down the road for 22 years in Union County. There's nowhere else to kick it. We need to do something.
And here's where I am, as the town engineer, and I've been in Waxhaw for 8 years. I've lived in Waxhaw since 1996. I've seen the growth, and for me, it's a natural part of life in this country, right? My job is to help us get along and make the improvements strategically where we can to make up for the lack of planning and then
step forward in the future and try and jumpstart. And this is a great plan. This has been a great plan for a long time, and everybody's agreed it was a great plan until 2 weeks ago. And for me, you know, I've gone to Mineral Springs, I've gone to the county, and I've said clearly there's not been enough open discussion on this because there's a lot of misinformation or abuse of information and not actual coming together for whatever the common goals are. If we're trying to avoid a subdivision, if we're trying to avoid particular growth in a region, let's bring that to the table. But for Waxhaw, it's always been predicated that there will be a Parkway East, and all of our planning has gone to that end. And so to then all of a sudden pull the rug out from under that is beyond disappointing. It's contrary to what the county should be doing. We are part of the county. We are not some stepchild, and they want to chide us, and for doing work that they as well do. Right? We all know this is not an easy thing to run a town or a locality or a county. And we have to balance and we have to make decisions in the public interest. And for me, it's a no-brainer. Downtown Waxhaw is threatened here by closing down because of traffic. The widening is going to come. The Parkway is no closer to being realized, and it's not about what's south of 75, it's what's going through downtown, and how do we avoid that so that we can keep what is an amazing little gem of a historic place for families to enjoy themselves. That is the greater good, and that's what, in cooperation with the CRTPO, we've been working at for years and now decades, and it's disheartening that it's come to a political gamesmanship. It doesn't need to go there. Simply come to a room, set down our goals, let's work through them and bring something back that we can all agree is cooperative and really in the greater good, besides the choosing aisles and picking sides.
So if I can just ask a question, excuse my voice. Did you answer Commissioner Westlake's question with regard to whether or not you were going to support the Parkway as CRTPO representative?
I would like CRTPO to give us an answer as to whether or not they're going to support it. At the end of the day, their support is the support with the dollars.
Question being though, you as the mayor and leader, will you move or work with Waxhaw in support of trying to get that done?
I've been working to get a decision from CRTPO.
So is the answer to the question yes?
The answer is working to get a decision. Yes, I'm trying to get a final decision from CRTPO as to whether or not they will fund or continue to fund this project. And if they're not, that's a decision we need to know. And if the project needs to change and needs to be adjusted as a result of their decision, we need to know. Now, will they approve it without county support? I don't know. Will they approve it without Mineral Springs support?
Once again, are you working for Waxhaw to get it approved?
Now, who are you to grill the mayor?
I'm not, hold on. It's a question. No. It's a question, and I'm not grilling the mayor, okay? I'm not grilling the mayor. I'm asking a direct question to which he is not answering.
He's answered you.
I answered your question.
And I didn't ask you. I'm asking him a direct question. Okay? That was a question. That's not grilling.
The answer is that I'm moving for CRTPO to make a decision.
So I think...
Because again, if I support it and push it really, really hard, that's not going to change the fact that my commission, my board is split. If I push it really, really hard, it's not going to change the fact that Mineral Springs is fighting against me. If I push it really, really hard, it's not going to change the fact that Union County wants to just remove this altogether. So the question becomes, how hard can I push and get CRTPO to actually make a decision to approve this? And will they make a decision to approve it when they know the county's against it, the neighbors are against it, and the board is split?
NCDOT is going to be widening the road beginning in 2028?
Yes.
Okay. With the widening of the road and the extra lanes, we already have approximately 9,000 cars that come through Waxhaw just as bypass through the downtown area. So you see that number increasing even more without the parkway being there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, with the more lanes, there's going to be an ability for the volume of traffic to get here quicker. They're not staggered behind a single lane, so they will be able, the mobility will increase when those lanes are added, and then they are going to stop, terminate, and go back to 2 lanes downtown.
At Brook Street.
And we will not be able to process that through the intersection. We're already at capacity.
And that's with extra trucks possibly and everything else coming through and trying to make that turn at the downtown.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
And I just would like to say, you know, Commissioner Dot, you have been asking for transparency. So this is the board having a discussion right now. And we want representatives at the CRTPO to support Waxhaw and what's best for Waxhaw in solving our traffic problem in Waxhaw. And so we want to know that our representatives are there pushing for the parkway to solve our traffic problems.
Well, he just gave a very detailed answer, and yet still want to push. What's going on?
Well, I think because I didn't get a good answer on whether or not you support it or not.
I'm pushing to get an answer from CARPO. I support an answer from CARPO. It's whether or not they're going to support it. It's their support that matters more than mine.
Yeah, and the amendment at the CRTPO right now is on the feasibility alignment and compared to the current alignment that's on there. And we have proceeded to facilitate that amendment going forward. Now we're at a point where if we feel politically that we're weak because there's not going to be enough votes in the room at the CRTPO board meeting, that it could go the other way and they take the parkway off, it's not going back on. We don't want to push that matter farther than we're willing. If we thought we would already get a vote, we get Charlotte's vote, we get DOT's vote, we get our vote, and we're probably going to be okay, but that's not necessarily a way that we want to bring this across the finish line. We want to bring the county, and if we can, Mineral Springs on board to get support across it. And again, if it's an exchange of information, just more legwork that we have to do, we're happy to do that, because there's too many good reasons for it, and there's not enough reasons against it, and it's just working through that to bring it across. We're going to be meeting with DOT on Thursday, getting more perspective on how this plays out. We are talking with CRTPO next week as well. This is not the end, but it's just another step in the process.
Oh, sorry. It was my understanding, I don't know the county, that's news, but it was my understanding that the mayor of Mineral Springs was willing to come to the table and have CARPO mediate. So this is news to me that he's not.
No, so in February, CARPO asked Waxhaw, Mineral Springs, and the county if the CRTPO would come out and mediate a discussion, would they participate? They did not answer. And so we, in the interest of helping the CRTPO do what they do, reached out to them and said, hey, look, this thing's on the table. We've got to move it forward. Do you want to talk about it or not? We went to Mineral Springs. They gave us just the 3-minute public. We didn't get to really have any two-way conversation. We presented, and they couldn't vote fast enough to recommend removing it. I get it. Mineral Springs knows what they are. They know what they aren't. Again, this is different from every other time we've participated in public engagement. They've not said anything other than the fact that the parkway, they are supportive of it. So, I mean, again, this is kind of a last-minute action. Then we went to Monday's, the following Monday's board meeting where we were allowed to present, and again, James and I made our case, which is very strong, and then they let us sit down, cut off any ability to have any interaction, and then went out and pulled it. And again, it was a split vote at the county board as well. This is a very hot topic apparently, and even though it's been around for 30 years, it's really taking another direction. And really, it's not one that in the long term is healthy for the county or the town. It's just not.
Well, there was a resolution on April 11th with CARPO, and I believe Rick Becker agreed to attend a negotiation of some sort or a meeting of some sort. Is there a way to double check that?
So there was a further subclause within that resolution that Mayor Becker had interest in proceeding with the CRTPO facilitation, assuming that Union County was also wanted to participate. So all three parties, Waxhaw, Mineral Springs, and Union County, have to come to the table in order to have that facilitation. So that was the understanding as far as all three parties must agree to come to the table. Yes, Mineral Springs had agreed to come to the table, and yes, Waxhaw has agreed to come to the table. And I believe Union County may have said before that they would support the municipality's decisions. Now, both municipalities, Waxhaw and Mineral Springs, wanted to come to the table, and still Union County proceeded with not supporting that option.
But if Mayor Becker is willing, can we start there to
We can most
facilitate
certainly extend
that?
another invite.
And
Most certainly do that.
let's give it a shot instead of being on opposite sides. I mean, we're arguing here over something we can't fix. It's 30 to 40 years out, and if we can get one on board, maybe the rest will come on board. And if maybe it's an alignment issue again. Believe me, I know I've seen the squiggly lines all over that map. I can't follow them. But if it's something not that it's something simple. This is certainly not simple. But if he's willing to come to the table, let's reach out just to him, and maybe if Waxhaw and Mineral Springs can get on board, maybe the county then would reconsider. But I think it's worth a try in the meantime.
That could be a good stepping stone, and that could be a good option to proceed with. Ultimately, at the end of the day, CRTPO will want to see all three municipalities in agreement to whatever it is.
And then I guess I would, while we're working on the Waxhaw Parkway East, and we know how important that is, we don't really discuss Waxhaw Parkway West. And I know that is attainable and pretty close at hand and would relieve traffic, and it will connect to the flyover, right, over the CSX.
That's correct. So Waxhaw Parkway West, also known as Helms Road Extension, is the project that we're going to submit this fall. And assuming that that is funded, that's the first step. It has to be funded. Assuming that it's funded, you're on a 5-year timeline for that.
So I guess my question would be, could we move everything else up, keep Waxhaw Parkway East in our sights, continue to work on it, and focus on what we can do? Because it seems like, I've only been here 10 years, but it seems like as long as I've been here, 16 is supposed to be getting widened, the Waxhaw Parkway's coming.
So that's a great point that you made, and I'll go back to the Tier 1 and Tier 2 prioritization. So notice that those tiers, those are the ones that we're working in between. So even though Waxhaw Parkway East isn't listed as the number 1 project there, it is still listed within Tier 1. So you have flexibility to move around within the various tiers. Ultimately, that number 1 spot came from the community engagement period that we recently just concluded.
But by and large, as a Tier 1 priority, it's of equal priority.
That's correct. Yep.
Can I get a motion to approve the Waxhaw Master Transportation Plan prioritization as presented? Sorry, did I cut you off, Jeff?
No, that's okay.
Very well. Can I get a motion to approve the Waxhaw Master Transportation Plan project tier prioritization as presented?
Motion to approve the Waxhaw Master Transportation Plan project tier prioritizations as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. That plan is now adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move to the old item 1. Ms. Janet Parano.
Lots of stuff here. Okay, so I am Janet Parano. I am a planner here for the town of Waxhaw, and the first item that we're going to discuss tonight is the rezoning petition for the Fox parcel. We'll be looking for a board decision this evening. So The petition is a request by the applicant Wesley Fox for a rezoning map amendment from R4 residential to CC commercial corridor. The property is approximately 1.5 acres located on Waxhaw Marvin Road, adjacent to the Waxhaw Equipment Company. The equipment rental is also owned by Mr. Fox and has operated at this location for over 25 years. The subject parcel is outlined in red. You can see here is Waxhaw Marvin Road. This is the existing Waxhaw rental and the town's rec center, and down on the south side of the railroad tracks. The parcel is vacant property, currently zoned R4. Properties to the north are single-family homes zoned neighborhood center, and an approved attached single-family project zoned R4. To the east are parcels owned by Mr. Fox, zoned commercial corridor and home to the Waxhaw Rental Company. And to the south, on the other side of the railroad tracks, is a vacant parcel zoned Union County R40, and to the west is a vacant parcel zoned R4. State law mandates that zoning be undertaken with consideration of a comprehensive plan. The Waxhaw 2040 future land use map designates the property as employment center. Employment center zoning allows for the development of larger scale businesses to drive employment and economic opportunities. Permitted uses include office parks, light or high-tech industrial campuses, and warehousing or distribution facilities. The proposed zoning is CC, Commercial Corridor. Commercial Corridor provides for its services and retail uses to meet daily needs of local residents and allows for growth consistent with the existing development. The Planning Board reviewed the rezoning petition on March 19th and voted unanimously for a favorable recommendation. Staff also recommends approval. A public hearing was held on April 9th and there were no public comments. With every rezoning, we are required to adopt a land use plan consistency statement. Staff has provided a draft statement for your consideration. And the requested action this evening is a motion to approve the rezoning petition and the reasonableness and consistency statement as provided.
Any final questions from the board on this issue?
Can you go back to the table of uses, please? The the employment center. So we have that in our future land use plan for employment center.
Yes.
And so the property that's next to it, that's commercial?
The property with the Waxhaw rental is commercial.
Commercial, okay. And so when we say warehousing on there, that's just a building to store products, that's how we define that, or... And then there, I see associated accessory structures, outdoor storage, equipment storage. So would that be similar to the type of things that they have on that the Waxhaw rental property?
It is similar. They could do outdoor storage either in commercial or employment center.
I guess what I'm trying to think about is when we went and worked on this land use map, it was mainly because the businesses that were there currently kind of fit under the light and industrial, I think, would that be considered that, the equipment?
There's a dog kennel there.
That was, because that doesn't...
The athletic barn.
Yeah.
I think, are those commercial?
Yeah.
Under CC, they would be approved.
I know that was one of the reasons, and I'm just trying to remember, maybe Commissioner McMillan and Hall can remember, but I think that what we were trying to accomplish, this being an extension of downtown, and working on a walkable community with citizens hopefully walking from downtown all the way down to Millbridge or wherever, making it more of a neighborhood center type of atmosphere. And I think we kept it an employment center because of the businesses that were already in that corridor. Does anybody remember this? And because my concern is that, I know across the street there's a townhome project going in, and then we have Cottage Park going in down the road. So it is kind of a residential area. And I know that as we were working on this map, that it was important that where there was residential area, we would make it more of a neighborhood feel rather than commercial feel. And so my concern is not what the current business owner, property owner would do with it themselves. But when we do a rezoning, we have to instead consider uses of that zoning rather than what the property owner intends to do, because we have seen in the past being told certain things are going to go on a certain property and then they sell it and then something else happens on it. So I'm more comfortable keeping it employment center than changing it to commercial, where a gas station, a fast food, something like that can go right across the street from a neighborhood. So I don't know if the applicant would be open to an employment center or
Wesley?
I'm Wesley Fox.
Okay.
Been in Waxhaw about all my life. Grew up in Lester Howey. We'd get on my bike. I'd go up to the farm, get milk, drive back home. A few years later, well, a lot more years later, I had the Western Auto up here. I had a fitness center up here in the 80s. I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen the opportunity to this property beside me because it makes sense to keep it to what I got, because my son, he'll take over on it. And I'm just requesting that I'm not some fly-by-nighter to come in and flip-flop and change something like you said, gas station. That's not in my future. My future's for my boys. And I just want to say that I appreciate your consideration. I like to keep it what I got it zoned now because I'm fencing it in. And, I don't mean to or do anything to hurt the town. I just want to do what's best for the town. And I want to do what's best for my family and the growth, So take that in consideration for me.
So, Janet, I guess what I'm trying to understand is if there's a way that what he wants to do can fit in this other zoning.
So he can have a storage building. I think the intent is to expand his business, and the reason that he wants to just rezone that to commercial corridor is because the existing business is on a commercial corridor plot. Looking through the table of permitted uses, the use that he has now would be fine. He can do an accessory structure, a storage building there on the EC as well.
I'd like to say something to you. Also, there's so much growth that it's at the end of capacity for future. I need room, and not right now is bad. I'm getting by with it, but just turnaround area for it, just to be able to operate. And the town's got bigger. I got to get a little bigger, and I got the opportunity of this property, so I took advantage of it, and that's all I got to say.
Yeah. So I'm not supposed to make my decision based on what you're going to do with it, but I guess what I'm trying to understand, so your intent is just to expand your current business and maybe store more equipment there, or?
Well, yeah, that's what I want to do, but, it was industrial when I first got it years ago in 97. Jack Kimby, cut the ribbon and all that good stuff. And but, I'm here all for future growth.
I just like to, it makes sense just to keep it the way it is. They went from industrial, be honest with you, I didn't even know it went to, from industrial to what it is now. Because we work all the time. Got here and come here dirty. So I should have paid attention to that end, but it went through me. But I'm fine with that. But to make it an uproar, not an uproar, I just like to keep it like I got it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes, and certainly y'all all speak up, but it makes sense to me that you would want to use it for that rather than it be zoned R4. I mean, I know the tracks run behind there, and it's probably not somebody's going to build a house there, I'm not imagining, but so that makes sense. I'm just trying to see if we can come up with a way to zone it that it fits. So
what's the problem with me keeping it when I got it? I mean, it all makes sense. I'm right next to it. I mean, just fence it off, and for future use and growth. I mean, it doesn't make sense to go to the extraordinary to do all that part of rezoning when I have to rezone mine again too. I want to keep mine the way it is. I want to keep the property next to me, fence it in, for future growth. I grow with the town. I just wanted to keep it simple.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I just.
I think what Commissioner Westlake is saying is that it's not that she's not okay with it, she's concerned after you, if it can turn into a gas station. So we were trying to figure out.
I got my family in this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, when I'm gone, I don't know, he might want to put a Taj Mahal there, I don't know. But right now, my plans are I've been there since, started as in 97, I incorporated it in 99, so I've been there a while, you know.
Well, I'm for you expanding. We're just trying to figure out what's the easiest way so we don't get a crazy old quick stop in there if you decide to sell. If you win $1 billion in Powerball.
Well, I'd probably put me a custom car shop inside my building there and work on cars. I like working on cars.
So I had a quick question, Jeff. Would it, or Jana, would it be possible if in order to keep it with our future land use and approve it as an EC with a special use so that Mr. Fox can do what he wants to do with his family there?
You would have to have a different request to do that. You couldn't do that as a special use with this particular. He would have to reapply and go through the process again. Just back to the CC conversation. When you look at the table of permitted uses, you see the P there for permitted uses, and you see the S there for special uses. You would be considering when you rezone it to corridor commercial, all of those uses that have a P behind it, that they could be there by right. Yes, that is a possibility. That certainly could happen. Keep in mind, though, that our code has a lot of protections in place, perimeter buffers from residential, especially if the property next door maintains that type of zoning. So if he does develop the property, you'll have those as well as all the other design improvements for that property. So and of course, we have planning staff second to none that enforces those codes. A lot of when we wrote the code, a lot of the, I guess you would say, more concerning uses that you would have, we put an S there, special use. So if they did want to come back and do something that we felt at the time when we wrote the code would require some additional review by the board, then those uses that have the S behind there would have to come back to the board for additional review. So you can look through the table to determine which ones those are. For example, I've got it
pulled up
Real
here.
quick on top of that, Jeff, if there were an S, would that require a board decision for any modification or changes to that, such as building an auxiliary unit or a storage unit, a steel building, or?
Storage unit, no, not necessarily, not if it meets an accessory building type definition, but if you had a use that was a special use and they wanted to change some primary aspect of that, then absolutely yes. You'd have to come back to the board for approval of whatever that changing use is, or if they wanted to expand the main building there, if they wanted to redevelop it, whatever that may be. All those things come into play when you're dealing with a special use. Now, if it's a permitted use by right, if they wanted to change to something of that nature, then it would still go through the typical town of Waxhaw review process. They would have to put together the plans. They'd have to turn that into planning and zoning staff and go through the normal process. Planner would get assigned that review, and they'd have to go through that process, however many TRC reviews it takes to get it to where it meets our standards.
So, and one other comment is that it has an overlay district on Waxhaw Marvin Road, so the minimum lot width is 150 feet. That lot is only about 95 feet, so someone couldn't come in and build on that parcel. Now, because Mr. Fox owns the adjacent parcel, we can consider that as all one lot. So for him to have his business there and maybe want an accessory structure, he would be able to do that. But if he tried to sell off that parcel on its own, it would be non-conforming.
One final question too for Charlie, actually. So since our future land use map has this as EC, and if we change it to something different, does that change our land use map?
Yes. That if you change the zoning to something different than shows on your existing land use map, that action automatically amends your land use plan, and that's provided in 160D.
So would it be that entire purple area?
Just the district that you're dealing with now.
Just that lot?
Just that lot.
So it wouldn't...
Just that lot.
Just a sliver.
So then that would be color. That would be the color of that future land use plan.
I'd also make one other suggestion, and this comes up, it's a common concern when you're doing a general rezoning, but what I would recommend, and we can do this as a exercise at some future meeting if you'd like, anywhere that you see the letter P on the corridor commercial that concerns you, we can always talk about that. We can do a text amendment and we can change that to an S. So in essence, if you have a concern about if a gas station is a permitted use by right, that's something that the board can rectify through text amendment through their code. And that's a good exercise to do pretty regularly. It would change the entire process for anybody in town that would want to do that, but this is the kind of seeds of things where you have those concerns though about one particular property, and then you can apply it town-wide if that continues to be a concern.
Okay. And just a gas station is a special use on both commercial corridor and EC.
Okay, so that's
but just
not a good example.
But you said convenience
a
store.
convenience store with fuel is permitted in commercial corridor.
But the point is that if you see a use in the corridor commercial that is a P that makes you uncomfortable, the board can recommend that be changed.
Okay.
No further questions? Alrighty. Can I get a motion to approve the Fox property rezoning petition?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning petition RZ 015255-2024 Fox property, and the reasonableness and consistency statement that the request is inconsistent with the Waxhaw 2040 future land use map, but is reasonable and in the public interest as the parcel is adjacent to other CC zoned properties and will provide diversity to the tax base.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the voluntary annexation petition 18234.
Okay, so this is the board decision for the annexation petition and the initial rezoning petition of the Graham property. This is a request that was submitted by Mel Graham for an annexation and initial zoning of approximately 168.58 acres. The property is a combination of 4 parcels located off Highway 75 near the South Carolina border, and the property is zoned Union County R20. The proposed zoning is R3 and Employment Center. The subject property is outlined in red and is adjacent to the Millbridge subdivision on the north side of Highway 75. Properties are considered adjacent even if they are separated by a transportation corridor. So you can see Highway 75 is here, and this is the South Carolina border. 160A-31 is the process given to us by the state for voluntary annexations. The application was found to be sufficient, and a public hearing was held on April 9th. Tonight, we will be looking for a motion to pass an ordinance annexing the territory as described. The property is currently zoned Union County R20 residential. R20 is intended to accommodate low to moderate density single-family residential development in areas served by central water and central sewer facilities. By right development in R20 allows for a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet with no open space requirements. To the north is the Millbridge subdivision, zoned R3, and Union County RA20. And on the east is the Heathwood subdivision, zoned Union County R20. To the south, Union County RA40. To the west, more Union County R20, and on the other side of the border is South Carolina RN, Rural Neighborhood District. State law mandates that when property is annexed to town, that the town apply a zoning district designation, and that the zoning be undertaken with consideration of a comprehensive plan. The Waxhaw 2040 future land use map designates the property as medium-density residential. This designation provides for a mixture of housing type, density of 3 to 4 dwelling units per acre, consistent with traditional suburban-style housing currently utilized for a majority of the town's established subdivisions. The Union County 2050 land use map designates the property as employment corridor. Employment corridors have access to transportation infrastructure, and development uses that may be appropriate include distribution, logistics, industrial, and agribusiness. At the public hearing, you asked about permitted uses in the county employment corridor versus the town's employment center district, and staff has provided both the Union County and Waxhaw tables of permitted uses in your packets. The proposed zoning is R3 for the southern portion, approximately 119.58 acres, and EC, Employment Center, for the northern 49 acres along Highway 75. R3 residential zoning allows for development of single-family detached homes at a rate of 3 units per acre. That is in harmony with the existing residential subdivisions in town. And while R3 allows for up to 3.5 units per acre, the yield is always lower. Developments in town average 2.2 units per acre after allowing for floodplain easements and town-required stormwater buffers, tree save, and open space. The proposed zoning for Employment Center allows for the development of larger-scale businesses to drive employment and economic opportunities. The Waxhaw 2040 plan calls for attracting major employers to help diversify the tax base. Our tax base now is 89% residential and 11% commercial. A good mix would be 80% residential and 20% commercial. Employment centers have been designated in areas of large undeveloped parcels along existing or future transportation routes, and while the Waxhaw 2040 plan did not designate this property as employment, the Union County 2050 future land map does. The applicant's original request was for all residential. The planning board chair asked him to consider a portion to be employment center because of its location along Highway 75 and in close proximity to 521. Public hearings for both the annexation and the initial zoning were held on April 9th. 9 individuals signed up to speak. Topics brought up are listed on the screen. I'll give you a moment to take a look at those. So I thought that it would be helpful to go through the timeline and steps for a project from annexation through to the final plat for a major subdivision. We're at the very beginning of this process, the annexation and initial zoning. If both are approved, then we move forward with the rest of the process. All of the topics raised at the public hearing will be addressed during the multiple reviews of the project. This is a multi-step process with checks along the way to make sure that the project meets all the requirements of the Waxhaw Land Development Code and all of the outside agencies. The next step is the preliminary plat review. This is where the applicant submits their development plan. The plan is distributed to the TRC for review, and the applicant will have the opportunity to revise the plan based on review comments. Then the plans are presented to the planning board for consideration and recommendation, and then to the Board of Commissioners for your decision. After the preliminary plan is approved, then the applicant may move on to construction plans. Again, construction plans are distributed to the TRC, including outside agencies for review and comment, and typically go through 3 to 4 review cycles, so there are multiple review steps at each step in the process. So let's talk a little bit about the TRC. The TRC, the Technical Review Committee, includes town staff, so planning, engineering, erosion and sedimentation control, public works, parks and rec. It also includes all of these outside agencies who review all of the items that are on this list. The current county zoning is R20, which for a by right development will allow 20,000 square foot lots with no open space requirements. If the property is annexed into Waxhaw, our processes and ordinances will help shape the development. Waxhaw requires open space, tree save, trails and greenways, dedicated park space or fee in lieu. We have lighting standards, buffer and screening standards, stormwater plan requirements, connectivity requirements, and parking requirements. I'd also like to touch on traffic and schools. The town of Waxhaw contracts with a third party for all traffic impact studies, rather than allowing the developer to provide their own reports. TIAs are based on site trip generation estimates. Waxhaw has a more stringent threshold to require a traffic study than does the county or the NCDOT, and we have more robust mitigation standards. As for schools, the sightings of schools is not in the purview of the town. However, Union County Public Schools is included in all plan reviews. Staff is working together to strengthen our relationship with UCPS and have collaborated with their planner to identify potential school sites. Additionally, at the retreat in January, the board requested that the town land use plan address future school sites. Staff brought a proposed text amendment to the planning board last week that will be the catalyst to require reservation of school sites when new development is being considered. The planning board voted unanimously for a favorable recommendation, and there will be a public hearing on the text amendment at the May 14th BOC meeting. One final topic that was brought up by a citizen at the public hearing was return on investment, or what we call cost to serve. This is another item that was discussed at the board retreat, and staff has been researching this topic and was recently given approval to enter into contract with a consultant to complete a cost to study survey for land uses and the final impact on town services. The planning board considered the initial zoning petition at their November 21st meeting. There was lengthy discussion about traffic impact and mitigation, protection of streams and wetlands, providing park and tree save areas, and creating an employment base that will fit the town's vision for improving the commercial to residential tax ratio. The Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposed zoning and the reasonableness and consistency statement. So again, with every zoning, we are required to adopt the land use plan consistency statement. The statement must describe how the proposed zoning is consistent or inconsistent and explain why the proposed action is reasonable and in the public interest. Staff has provided a draft statement for your consideration. So this evening, there are 2 actions requested. The first will be a motion to adopt an ordinance for the annexation, and in your packet, you will find a copy of the ordinance. And on the screen is the recommended motion. And then secondly, a motion to approve the initial zoning and reasonableness and consistency statement as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Graham is here this evening to answer any questions that you may have for him, and I believe he wanted to say a few words.
Mr. Mayor, before we get into questions in Mr. Graham's presentation, let me very strongly remind the board that these are 2 separate actions. And even though the statute allows them to be voted on the same night, these really should have not been presented to you together tonight. I'm sorry to interfere with this, but they should have been 2 separate agenda items. You can vote on the annexation, then you can vote on the zoning, but they should have been 2 separate items. And I think we need to clarify the board, and that's my role here, so that when you're voting, you perfectly understand, and I know you do, but I don't want the public to understand too that you know this, but I think you need to be cautioned by me, and I don't mean to be your mentor here or anything, but these are 2 separate actions, and so you will be dealing first with the annexation, then you will have discussions on the motion for the zoning, but they're 2 separate items and not boom, boom.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board at this point? Do we have any questions with respect to the annexation? Certainly. Yes, no, comments, questions?
Was Mr. Graham speaking prior?
Turn it over.
Thought I
Check it.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut Mr. Graham off if he was presenting or speaking.
Yeah, I was hoping to get the questions addressed.
First? Okay.
So just, if we have any questions, let's get the questions out.
My concern is with the annexation, and I know we discussed it. Part of what we've been hearing is that we have issues with donut holes, and we're creating donut holes, and that it's an issue. So my concern is that we're creating another donut hole, and then having to provide services further out than we necessarily do. So that's one concern. The county actually in their 2050 plan does have a strategy to deal with the donut areas and establish a policy not to approve rezonings that would increase intensity and the intensity of uses. Yet, we're going to be asked to do both of these. So that's another concern. We posted signs and we sent out letters, presumably seeking input from citizens in the surrounding area. I received emails in opposition to the project. We asked citizens to speak at the last BOC meeting, and about 100 neighbors signed a petition opposing the annexation as well. Clearly, there's not a ground wall support for the annexation. So I'd like to just voice that concern, and in speaking to the residents, they're very concerned about annexing and then a domino effect of more annexation. And we would have to provide now services from, I believe Magnolia Ridge is the last Waxhaw development to now.
Well, Millbridge is right across Highway 75, and even if that property stayed in the county, if there was some incident out there, our police department would respond to that.
Well, that's not exactly accurate because the police department isn't on the same frequency. So they wouldn't get the Union County calls. They respond in a mutual aid agreement, and I'm certain that does not happen often. So they do get fire, but they get fire that through the county anyway. And our police department only responds in a mutual aid agreement. And I would assume that only happens in major incidents. They're not on the same frequency. They don't even hear the calls from Union County.
Can we have Chief Wilson address that?
So you are correct that we are on different frequencies between Waxhaw Police and Union County, although we do listen to Union County's frequencies, only because there's so many donut holes and so many neighborhoods that are close to the proximity of Waxhaw, where it may take a Union County deputy 30 to 45 minutes to arrive, where we would offer our assistance. And yes, it is under a mutual aid, so the county would have to request us to assist in those matters, but that does happen all the time. So
How often would you say it would happen?
for any event on Highway 75 from Waxhaw to the county line, every time.
Interesting. Okay. I'm using the example of Cuthbertson High School had it was a man with a gun who actually wasn't intended to go into the school. There was a road rage on Cuthbertson, and Waxhaw had no idea there was an incident. The school actually called for an emergency call that my daughter was so petrified that she called me that she thought something was really happening, and I called Waxhaw and they had no idea.
Okay, so
at that time.
So I heard the call go out, and during that time, the deputy that was on scene had already said it wasn't anything going on. So that was probably maybe 2-3 weeks ago?
No, this was about a year ago.
Okay, there was another incident where we had actually contacted the deputy.
Mm-hmm. No, this was a year ago, so I'm just saying our police are taxed running everywhere, and I don't want them to have to run places where it's not necessary unless they're being asked to for mutual aid or unless it's an extreme emergency.
Right.
You know, if it's all hands on deck, then by all means, obviously, yes.
And that's our concerns too. We've got commercial right across the street here that are county, which we would respond to if there was an incident that went on there, because we would be asked through mutual aid, hey, can you take care of that? Or can you see what's going on while they're en route? So it does happen quite frequently due to the donut holes that are everywhere in Waxhaw.
Thank you. Anything else? Anyone? No? Yes?
So, I'm sorry. Did you have something, Jen? Okay. Janet, it's currently zoned R20, is that correct?
Yes.
In Union County, and I just looked at this table of use in Union County, what R20 stands for. I know this is annexation, okay. It's, which includes detached housing, 2-unit houses, so duplexes, I guess. I know. And manufactured housing. So that's what it's currently zoned at.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that that's what could go there now. If it stays in Union County, that Mr. Graham could build duplexes, do a manufactured housing lot, that type of thing. Okay.
Janet, would you mind going back to one of the maps? Just wanted to clarify something. Right there, I think that's good. The property to the north is Waxhaw. That's what makes it contiguous. And so the property directly west of the subject properties in the county, several parcels. The properties directly south are in the county, several parcels. The property to the east is the Heathwood subdivision, several properties. It's all in the county, so I don't see where there's a donut hole situation here. I guess that's my point.
Well, I think the one thing to point out, though, is it's a railroad track and a state highway, and the nearest connection point would be that Helms Road connection. And how far is the Helms Road connection from this? So my point being is it's a fairly substantial border between the two. So we could say it's continuous, but good luck walking it. That's kind of my only point.
Well, yeah, you would have to cross the railroad tracks, that is true.
And a state highway.
Yes, and a state highway.
Well, back in March we had a special presentation from Randall
Art.
Yeah, Greener Prospects. He was talking to us about conservation subdivisions.
Yes.
Probably the easiest way to explain that is just that you concentrate the housing into one area of the property and the rest has green space. And so I asked him about, how secure is that green space from development in the future, and he assured me that it's pretty secure. And then he went on to say that there's a common misconception out there where people on councils like this think that they'll get more tax dollars from residential development. But he said you never get more tax dollars from development unless it's non-residential. He did give a few exceptions, but they don't really apply to this particular property. One of the exceptions was huge mansions. So it seems like, 55 and older, and then seasonal, which we're not a seaside town, so that doesn't really apply. And as you said, we're currently working with a consultant on doing cost-benefit analysis. I've seen the examples of their work, and the same sort of sentiment is expressed in there about residential development and tax dollars. So it seems like there's a relationship between density and service burdens on the budget. And we have a lot of this kind of residential development in the hopper already. The type that, by all indications, doesn't pay for itself. So, to me, it doesn't make sense to just add more into the hopper.
And that's part of the reason why our planning board chair had asked Mr. Graham to take a look at the EC portion of it, so that we'll have fewer residents, but we'll have an employment center that will help to diversify that tax base.
Well, with the employment center is also one step closer to even higher residential. Now, granted, that would be another board approval, but it is one step closer.
Yeah, any residential that it is requested on an employment center parcel would need to come back before you.
I'm sorry, another question, or actually observation, is that we're comparing this to Millbridge, correct, the density? Because in the reasonable consistency statement, that it's reasonable in the public interest in part because the parcel has the same land use pattern as the surrounding area, and the example would be Millbridge. And I know we just talked about the definition of adjoining, and you had explained that technically adjoining can be across the street and over transportation, but we are ignoring the actual properties that abut the land, and that would include the actual surrounding area of 5-acre lots to the west, 0.7 to 1.9 lots to the east, and 7-acre lots east of that. So I would just, in my consideration, I'm looking at all the surrounding area, and the actual adjoining properties are much larger than the example of Millbridge.
And when we look throughout town, the density in this development would be pretty much in line with other developments in town. The R3 definitely does not mean that they'll get 3 units per acre. We're looking at much less than that. Our average in town is 2.2. I can't give you an exact figure for this parcel, only because the planning board had asked that the front portion of that be changed to EC, so I don't have a plan, available that shows us what the exact number of units will be.
I guess the other observation is that I know it was mentioned that the county, it would yield the same, approximately the same in the county. 3.5 here, but by the time we talk about wetlands and buffers and roads and topography, utilities, that it then goes down to about 2.2.
Roughly, that is our average in town. Like I
Right.
said, I don't have an exact number for this because we haven't had an opportunity, or Mr. Graham hasn't had an opportunity to provide number of units because the plan has been changed. And, at this point, we don't require that. It would be at the preliminary plan stage where we would see what the plan actually looks like.
Right. Just so that I just confirmed with the planning department in Union County that obviously they would also have to consider wetlands, buffers, roads, utilities, and 2 streams that run through the property. And they had said that it would be, they didn't have a number, obviously they don't have a survey, but that it would be far less than 2 homes per acre. So it would be less in the county. We wouldn't have to provide services. I know that we've had some conversations with our town manager, Mr. Arndt, about cost to serve, and that it costs more in general for residential than we make on the tax, and that's why the cost to serve analysis will come in handy once we get our hands on that. But I think we have to be very careful on how we proceed.
Well, again, the EC portion of it is what will provide the tax income.
Sorry. But we don't know if that would even come, correct? I mean, Mr. Graham, I think, said he could project 5 to 8 years approximately, but based on fair market, or whatever the market allows at the time. And so who knows what's happening tomorrow. I don't know that we can project 8 years down the line. And and doing some research and trying to educate myself, I'm realizing, I'm learning quickly that not all commercial is equal. And so our ratio right now is 89-11, which is certainly not where we want it to be.
Right.
And it seems like a lot of these NC zonings are giving us the commercial, but it's just not enough with all the residential attached that would ever flip that ratio. So I think we have to consider that as well.
So coming back to the annexation part of it, this can be developed.
Yes.
In the county. Yes. On its own, whether or not we annex, if we don't annex, it'll be developed. Something will go there.
Yes.
So the difference is, do we want the tax base from it, or do we want the county to have it and disperse it somewhere on the other side of the county when these people live the closest to the town of Waxhaw and are using the roads in Waxhaw, the shops in Waxhaw, even though I know the retail tax is spread out, but the taxes would be going to the county and they would be dispersing the taxes. Not only that, the county does not have as strict of regulations as we do and how a neighborhood looks. I just, when you compare it to the Encore at Streamside subdivision on Cuthbertson Road, which was basically clear cut with no green space, no parks and lieu, a very minimal TIA, whereas we require so much more. With it being in the town of Waxhaw, the town itself will benefit much more than if this remained in the county.
Yes. We'll still have schools that need to be addressed. We'll still have roads that are going to have traffic, but we won't see any of the benefit.
You talk about the taxes, but the taxes alone is just half of the story, right? There's the cost to serve as well. We don't know what the balance is there.
But they're still using our roads, our parks. Call to order.
Are we ready to make a vote at this point? It sounds like we can go back and forth for quite a long time. Could I get a motion to adopt ordinance 2024? Sorry? Do we have enough information to make a vote at this time?
Yes.
Yes? Well, I'm just wondering if we have enough information to make a vote, out of respect for everyone's time. Can I get a motion
to adopt ordinance ORD 2024013 for annexation petition 18-234 to extend the corporate limits of the town of Waxhaw?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Looks like a 3-2 vote. The ayes have it. Can I get a motion to approve initial zoning petition?
We should
RZ?
actually probably have a conversation about it. Yeah.
Do we still have questions about the zoning petition?
Oh, we got a lot of discussion on zoning. I do have a question, because the speaker in the public comments made an interesting point about the employment center zoning, and that how Mr. Graham originally wanted all residential, and that the planning chair had met with them and suggested the EC. And I would love to hear Mr. Graham speak on that if this is a good opportunity.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council, friends, neighbors. I appreciate the opportunity. And first, before we comment on this, let me just say thank you. I'm humbled by the kind comments from Mr. Hall. I wasn't expecting that at all, so I'm truly grateful and humbled by your kindness and the comments. And I also want to just comment on a couple of the comments that were made in the general comments that I also agree, Mr. Mayor. I'm encouraged by the future of the youth after seeing that those great kids, and certainly compliment them. And I also agree with Joe about bringing prayer back, not only to this meeting, but to every meeting. This nation, our schools, our universities, we've gotten a long way from what our founding fathers intended. So I certainly commend him and his thoughts on that. Concerning back to your question on the EC and Mr. Privette. Is Mr. Privette still here? We had a good conversation at the planning board meeting, Mr. Privette and I, about this project and about the EC, and that did come as a result of meeting and working hand in hand with the planning board, and a lot of conversations with them. It was not my original vision or intent to do that. It was to be residential. And they convinced me that with the future growth, the land plan, the 2050 plan, I think, in the county supporting it, and their belief that the corridor, the 75 corridor, will eventually catch up. And I agree with everybody's thoughts and comments here on traffic. Traffic is a mess, not just in Waxhaw, but everywhere we work. Mecklenburg, Matthews, Indian Trail, Wesley Chapel. It's everywhere. It's a result of all of us being blessed to live in the South and in a great environment where many people desire to live and to come. And it's a challenge. It's a tough thing. But the planning board felt and convinced me that the 75 corridor is going to become a major east-west corridor connecting 521, which is another major four-lane highway, eventually to Monroe. And yes, agreed, these projects seem to take forever. It's a shame that there's not more funding and not more support. All the roads need improvement. Not anything one particular individual or one landowner can do to correct that. But with that thought process and long-term vision and planning, the planning board convinced me to add the EC, specific to your question and point, believing that that would provide, number one, some good employment opportunity for the town. It would also be along what is a major corridor, thoroughfare, and of course, I would be willing to reduce that amount of area, whatever the board would have me do. But if we do any of the EC, I can assure you as a board and neighbors like Mr. Privette that we would absolutely screen it buffer it. We wouldn't want it to be ugly for anybody, for you guys, or for our own neighborhood. It would be as well done as humanly possibly could be done. But I'm more than happy to be flexible as far as reducing the size of that direction, or suggestion, came from your planning board. And I came to this meeting, to this town, enthusiastic because the planning board was so enthusiastic, and we got unanimous support from them for this project. So, I'm here humbly wanting to do what's best for the town. I mean, if we need to develop this in the county, we'll do the best job we can do as R20. I've truly thought that it's what the town wanted. I realize there are neighbors, and if I were a neighbor, I would probably be in their shoes. There are some neighbors that don't want any development. I get that. I understand that. But I believe that the town's zoning that's on the table is more forward-thinking than typical county R20 zoning, which doesn't have very many requirements. You just do whatever you can do to maximize the housing, whereas the town has many requirements, as you just saw, Janet pointed out, and at the end of the day, you end up with a lot of green space, pocket parks, and something that is true, properly planned urban development, which, thinking long-term, I know this seems like it's a pocket out by itself, but in time, over the years, we've all seen it going all the way up Providence Road to Charlotte and all up in parts of Union County and Mecklenburg County. Other properties will eventually fill in, and eventually that whole 75 corridor, long-term, looking at the 2050 plan, will be a lot more probably in EC zoning and neighborhoods more like this. So the planning board saw this as an opportunity to sort of set the bar high and establish a good community that would fit in and that would benefit the town and benefit the tax base. I don't know the math either on the cost of providing services and the tax base, but the planning board thought that the EC portion of this would definitely add to the tax base and would boost it up considerably, which gave them more interest in supporting it, and they thought, I believe, that it would give you all more interest to at least consider it. So I'm more than happy to reduce that EC portion down if that makes more sense. And I'm also happy to go out on a limb and say about density, I would agree to voluntarily restrict the density of this to where it would not exceed the town's average of 2.2. Even though it says you can do 3 or what have you, I'd be happy to certainly voluntarily say we'll our future plan that you will ultimately have to approve that we won't go over the 2.2 maximum density as well. So our thought at the end of the day, we could stand here and talk about it all night. Not going to hurt my feelings either way. We'll do the best job we can do, whether it's in the town or whether it's in the county. I'm not here to be in opposition with neighbors or anybody else. I just can tell you that we're in a great area. Growth is coming. None of us can stop it. The roads have never caught up in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, general surrounding area, and never will. They're always going to be behind. But we at least will come in and do our part. If it's not us developing it, it will be somebody else. And we simply want to try to do our dead level best to provide a great community for this town that benefits this town. And I wish we could get everybody in agreement. I know that's not going to happen. All I can do is stand here and be perfectly honest and answer your questions as honestly as I can. We have no hidden agenda. It's an open book. Our track record speaks for itself. We have many projects that were controversial probably at the time, but now they're very well thought of and have added value and property value to most all adjoining neighbors. And I don't see that this would be any different. So that's a long-winded answer to your answer to the EC and how it came about. But yeah, it wasn't my idea. It was the planning board's suggestion that I, after some time and energy, bought into it and felt like it was a good idea too.
Do we have any other questions? Any other comments then?
In considering approving this rezoning and annexation, I did look at North Carolina's General Statute 160D 605B. and it addresses the statement of reasonableness in that the statute lists factors to consider, namely, the benefits, detriments to the landowners, the neighbors, and the surrounding areas, the relationship between the current and actual permissible development on the track and adjoining areas, and the development that would be permissible under the proposed amendment, and why the action is in the public interest. And presently, the consistency statement, like I said before, discusses the surrounding area, but really does not address the areas that are actually adjoining, that consist of lots that are 5 acres, 0.7 to 1.9 acres on the east, and 7-acre lots just to the east of that. The request of the Employment Center is not consistent with our 2040 plan, and it's consistent in the Union County 2050 plan. However, the Union County 50 plan, like I said earlier, identifies donut holes, and it establishes the policy not to approve rezonings that would increase density and intensity, yet we're being asked to do so. We posted the signs, neighbors came out, and they were in opposition of the project. The R3 in our zoning is 3.5 units per acre. It yields 2.2, as I said earlier. But the R20 in the county will yield far less, as confirmed with their planning director. My concern is also the 8911 commercial. I don't know that the Employment Center will flip that ratio into any healthy direction, considering it may never get built based on whatever the market asks for at the time. Many times we talk about that in the past that we don't annex or upzone a property, the county will do it, and they receive the tax revenue, as you've heard this evening. But we also know that, like I said earlier, from our town manager, Randall Art, and the land conservation expert who presented at the March 8th, 2024 meeting, that the residential homes, such as the ones in this project, cost the town more for services than the tax revenue we collect. And regarding fire and police, again, the fire department responds to Union County already, and our police department does not get dispatched to Union County. The sheriff office does. Although the reasonable and consistency statement says that an employment center will provide diversity to the tax base and high quality jobs, we really can't state that as fact at this time. In my view, a more reasonable and consistency statement would read, although the request for R3 zoning is consistent with our Waxhaw 2040 comprehensive plan, we have to take into account that it's 2024. The parcels are in Union County and not in the Waxhaw town limits. It's not reasonable, and it's not in the public interest in that the parcels do not have the same land use pattern as the direct surrounding area. It would increase traffic when our infrastructure is already stressed, and there is no guarantee that the tax revenue would cover the town services. The request for employment center is not consistent with the Waxhaw 2040 future land use map, and it is not reasonable nor in the public interest since the surrounding area consists of Union County R20 zoning and large residential parcels. That is what I've been considering in approving or not approving this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Can I get a motion to approve the initial zoning petition with reasonableness and consistency statement?
I'll make a motion to approve initial zoning petition RZ 015121-2023 and the reasonableness and consistency statement as presented.
All in favor? Oh, sorry.
The request for R3 zoning is consistent with the Waxhaw 2040 comprehensive plan in that the parcels are situated within the 12-mile creek basin where utility infrastructure can be easily extended to support development. It is reasonable and in the public interest that it will consolidate and rationalize the town's boundaries through annexation with the same land use pattern as the surrounding area to ensure the town grows in an orderly manner. The request for employment center zoning is not consistent with the Waxhaw 2040 future land use map. However, it is consistent with the Union County 2050 plan. It is reasonable and in the public interest as it will provide diversity to the tax base and allow for high-quality jobs near Highway 75 and 521 regional transportation routes.
All in favor? Opposed? The ayes have majority, 3-2. This petition so passes. Thank you very much. Next up, we have new business. Janet again.
Yes, sir. Okay, so modifications to the Waxhaw Facade Improvement Grant Program.
Thank you. I'll have to call to order, sorry. Call to order, please. Thank you. Gotta get on those a little faster.
Okay. So the modifications to the facade improvement program. So the facade improvement program was an incentive-based program intended to encourage and provide economic inducement for the renovation of commercial, industrial, residential, and institutional buildings within the approved program boundary, and the preservation of the unique architectural character of downtown Waxhaw. This is a request from the planning staff and the business development director to change the name of the facade improvement grant program to the Building Exterior Improvement Grant Program, modify the program to include roof repairs as eligible for funding, and extend the timeline for completion of the work from 4 months to 6 months. This request came about for a few reasons. At the North Carolina Main Street Conference, there was a presentation that touched on making sure that incentives are responsive to the needs of building owners. Then our restoration specialist from the state, Brett Sturm from the Historic Preservation Office, visited Waxhaw to facilitate a brick technology workshop. While we were looking at brick and mortar incompatibility issues on this particular building on the left here, we also learned that the roof of the building was leaking. So we discussed what was more urgent, repointing the brick or repairing the roof. We learned from Brett that the maintenance of a watertight roof is the single most important determinant of building health over the long term. Once a roof is compromised and water begins to enter the building from the top down, deterioration will set into ceilings, walls, floors at an ever-accelerating rate. A roof needs to catch stormwater and drain it well away from the building's foundation. Water is the #1 agent of decay for building materials in our climate, so keeping it outside of the building and allowing a building's exterior to dry as quickly as possible after a wetting event are always the top 2 priorities for boosting the longevity of historic buildings in North Carolina. And we have received facade grant inquiries in the past that include roofs, but had to deny those requests because under existing grant guidelines, roof work is not eligible for a grant. Each year, money is budgeted for facade grants, and we haven't ever reached the point where we use all the funds. Right now, I know of 3 buildings where roof work is needed that could qualify for a grant if you will approve the requested changes. To summarize, we know that there is an immediate need and available funds. We can restructure the grant program to be more responsive to the needs of our community. And we know that maintaining a watertight roof is the single most important determinant of building health. The Waxhaw Historic Preservation Commission reviewed the proposed changes to the facade improvement program at their April 11th meeting and voted unanimously for a favorable recommendation. So tonight's requested action is a motion to approve the proposed modifications to the facade improvement grant program as presented.
Any questions?
Is the money that, if it doesn't get spent, is this a use it or lose it situation, or what happens with that?
So you allocate money to that line item each year in your budget approved. This current year is $65,000. Previous year it was $50,000. Historically, the expenditures at the end of the year have never reached past $40,000, and that appears that will be the case since we only have 2 months to go. When you see your new budget, which we will publish tomorrow, that will have a $65,000 line item in there for this particular service that we provide. If all of that money does not get spent, then it just goes back into what's called your unassigned fund balance.
Yeah, I think we need to be careful about expanding grant programs like this. You know, as the numbers that were quoted, it has expanded a lot. I think Mr. Cook brought up some very good points there. We have a thriving downtown, and I don't think we want to get the town government over-involved in things that thriving businesses could easily take care of.
I think the facade grad's great, but I think it's appropriate where it's at. I think we are going to get into some murky areas where, you know, right now we're looking at roofs, and will we expand it to foundations? I know that that's a hot button for a lot of these homes. They can't get rented, or they can't be, the commercial uses are difficult to switch over because the foundations are not in great shape. And so where does it end? I mean, I'm all for helping out the buildings and making them look great, and they're gorgeous and preserving their historic look. But there are people that have homes on the historic registry, and I don't know that they're eligible for the grant.
They are. They are. It covers residences, commercial, churches, all that are within the facade grant boundary, which is very similar to our National Register district, although it does extend a little bit up along Howie Mine Road, where we don't currently have any National Register listings. You can see the condition of the building on the left. The mortar and brick are incompatible, so we could provide funding to repair that, or some funding towards that. But if the roof is still leaking, that building is still in trouble.
I just don't think the taxpayers are going to have the appetite to support that.
We have the Tack Exchange building on the right. That is a unique building. It is one of our historic landmarks. It's a unique building. It's a unique business that has been in town for years. Very, very unique to the horse equestrian people here in Waxhaw, and we would hate to lose that. And I can tell you right now, the owner is considering all options for repairing or not repairing that building.
But we're not asking to increase the budget amount for this grant. It's going to stay the same. So the only change is whether or not we allow roofs.
Yes.
To be part of that. So when we talk about the taxpayers, I mean, it's already in the budget. This grant is something we already
It's more
allow.
likely to get spent though, right?
If it doesn't get spent, then it goes back into fund balance. So.
Right, but adding roofs makes it more likely to be spent.
One thing I've always maintained, you've heard me say this many times, if we have the good problem that we have more people requesting monies for this program, then we certainly can't afford to provide that consideration if we wanted to. If we ever have the luxury, I would say, of people wanting to spend more than $65,000, that would be a consideration to the town that I think would be worthwhile to consider, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
Well, if we include roofs, they might.
But we also match, so we're paying,
we pay 50%.
Half, yeah, 50%, so it's not paying for an entire project.
Right.
I don't know how much the roofs cost, but, I mean, on these buildings, I don't know. Do they have special, I mean, that looks like a metal, I don't know if that's
Yeah, it depends on the building.
Yeah.
Yes, the Tack Exchange is a tin roof. It's a metal roof.
That's more.
I don't know that it's more.
I can tell you it doesn't matter what side, top or bottom or whatever, everything's expensive.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, too, I mean, Jeff makes the point that this is a line item on the budget. The budget is something we review and approve, so it is infinitely tunable on our part as a board. So that's certainly something to keep in mind.
And every facade grant comes before you. The HPC makes a recommendation, and then they all come back for you to make a decision on.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve the proposed modifications to the facade improvements grant? Anyone? Class? Anyone? I think this side, it's their turn. Can we get it on the screen real quick, Janet? Sorry.
Sorry.
There you go.
Does it,
Did you have a question, Jeff?
does it
Brian?
maybe need more
James?
discussion?
Jason?
Do you think it, would you entertain tabling the vote and having some more discussion? Unless there's some kind of national emergency to get it passed right away.
Not a national emergency, but the TAC Exchange building has a temporary fix on it right now.
Sure. Yeah, and that's important.
Yes. Yeah, that
Are you proposed
the landlord.
Maybe if we push it, maybe
To a later date?
to. I'm
Okay.
asking everybody's opinion. Maybe next month, and that'll give us time to reevaluate, consider, and look and look at the budget. Yeah. Would everybody support tabling the vote?
I think that's fine. Certainly.
I'll make a motion to table the vote but I have to specify a date. We need to pick a date.
What's the next one?
Your next meeting is
Let's do it.
May
Yeah, Tony's got a
14th.
good idea. Let's do it 1 month from now.
Your next meeting is May 14th.
What's 1 month from now?
What's 1 month from now?
Second
Yeah.
meeting in May.
Second meeting in May, so May 20.
You want the second meeting?
If everybody's open to that, let's do that.
Sounds like everybody's open to that.
That would be the 28th.
Yeah, we don't get holidays.
Yeah, that'd be the Tuesday after Memorial Day.
Yes.
I make a motion to table the vote until May 28th, 2024.
All in favor of tabling the vote until May 28th, 2024?
Aye.
The ayes have it. We will table this vote for another time. Thank you. Okay. Next time. Where'd I go? Miss Janet.
Yes,
Once
sir.
again.
One more. A resolution of support for a certified local government grant. So this is a request by planning staff for the Board of Commissioners endorsement of the Town of Waxhaw's application for a certified local government grant in the amount of $24,000. Just a little bit of background, the Certified Local Government Program is sponsored by the U.S. Department of the Interior. The goal of the program is to facilitate state and local government cooperation with federal partners to promote nationwide preservation initiatives. The theme is Saving the Past for Future Generations. Waxhaw received CLG designation in January of 2023. As a certified local government, we are eligible to apply for grants. The Federal Historic Preservation Fund provides funds to the state annually, and at least 10% of those appropriations are used to fund CLG grants. CLG are matching grants, with the grant covering 60% of the cost of a project and CLG matching 40%. The program that we would like to use the grant for is an African American history project. The project will be community driven, starting with a steering committee which will create a list of oral history candidates. Oral history is very important because there aren't a lot of written records of African American history, and stories are usually passed down through the generations orally, so we need to identify those people that would be good candidates for oral histories. The oral history will follow state archives of oral history protocols and will be recorded and stored with the state archives. We will, from those oral histories, identify geographic locations, neighborhoods, and individual landmarks that are important to the African American community, and then submit those for architectural surveys, which is the research that is done and then presented to the Department of the Interior to get those sites registered as in the National Register, either as individual sites or as part of our National Register District, or maybe even possibly some local designated landmarks. We'll also plan on holding some African American history events where people can bring their photos and documents and have them scanned and preserved, and document any artifacts that they want to bring. So we've done a good job preserving our downtown. We have not done a good job preserving our African American history. We know that there was a Waxhaw Rosenwald School, and we do have a plaque commemorating that. That is probably the only historic site that has anything to do with African American residents. Consistency with our plans, our Waxhaw 2040 comprehensive plan has a section on cultural and recreation life. One of the goals is to highlight and protect Waxhaw's historic heritage and to partner with members of the African American community to learn about the people and places that contributed to the history of Waxhaw and share those stories. The plan is also consistent with the goals of the Historic Preservation Commission work plan for public outreach, oral history projects, and preservation of Waxhaw's African American history. We received a letter of support from the Waxhaw Historic Preservation Commission, and tonight my requested action is a motion to approve a resolution endorsing the Town of Waxhaw's application for a certified local government grant in the amount of $24,000.
Any questions? Can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-011?
It's matching, right?
Yeah.
Matching, yes.
Matching. Can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-011?
Motion to approve Resolution 2024-011, endorsing the Town of Waxhaw's application for a certified local government grant in the amount of $24,000 with a match in the amount of $16,000.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Dina, mural finalist.
We're tag teaming tonight.
All right, go to it.
Okay. All right, so you have myself, Dina Sabinsky, your Park Rec Director.
And I'm Ashley Dole, your Business Development Director.
Woohoo! Ready? Okay, so the Public Art Committee, PAC, has been working on the mural project for its past 23 and 24 work plan. We have updated the application process. We've worked through the business locations and with our partner with the DWA and the design committee, and basically come up with a great budget and was ready to go on this adventure of our first mural in Waxhaw.
Yeah, so we were really excited about this partnership between the Downtown Waxhaw Association and the Public Art Committee. So our Downtown Waxhaw Association prioritized public art in our work plans for FY24, as well as in our budget. So our design committee put this as a big goal in their work plan for this year. So our DWA team helped identify those prime locations in downtown for public art and really acted as a liaison between our business and property owners as well as our public art committee. Then we worked together to collaborate on the theme, and then we assisted in funding the mural too.
Location.
So like I said, the committees worked together to identify several prime locations. So we actually have a really great list now of great mural locations in downtown. So our design committee and staff worked with several property owners to vet locations and ultimately decided on the Great Wagon Road Distillery. So this is a historic building with historic bricks, so that means it can't be painted on. So we will have a panel mounted that will be painted on, and then you can see our picture of me and Dina there. So that is actually the location. It's really the perfect spot to take a selfie from, and you even get the water tank there in the background.
Perfect spot. The theme focuses on our cultural and our heritage areas. We're also looking for the local artists and regional artists. So we went about in our art policy for the unique heritage and history and culture. That theme was quite broad, and so the committees got together again and revised the focus, and basically went our focus on more to what makes our downtown unique, and that is our train. So the timeline, you can see that both committees have been working on this for a while. So in January of 23, both of our work plans. Then in June of 23, we started really pulling our sleeves up and getting down to business on the budget, and also looking at those locations. That happened all the way into August. Then Miss Ashley got a great grant from the Union County Arts Council. Then we went into the actual discussions with BOC to make sure that everybody was on point and everybody understood what we're moving towards. Applications went out. We had over 18 applications. That's amazing. And so we're super excited about that for future art going up. Then the selection happened on the 22nd, where we actually got down to our artist. And then we met with the artist, me and Ashley, went through all those reviews, went through some design reviews, refined that theme again to make it more refined to the train. And then we got awesome feedback from the artists and the committees, and they worked diligently on this. Through all those designs, we came up with our design that we're going to show you tonight.
So there are also a lot of funding sources that have gone into this too. So the Parks and Rec budget budgeted $6,000 for public art for this year. That's included in this. And then our Downtown Waxhaw Association budgeted $5,500 for it. So that includes the $3,000 grant that we received from the Union County Arts Council, as well as the $2,500 from their general fund.
So the commitment of your citizens of Waxhaw. This is a lot of hours that went into this initiative of bringing cultural art to Waxhaw. And I want to commend them for all these hours that they've been working on this. It's a testament to them of actually, pulling up their sleeves and bringing such great work to Waxhaw. So I can't thank them enough for the art committee and for downtown.
Yeah, so you can see here we had 320 total hours logged with this project, whether that be with the Public Art Committee, the Downtown Waxhaw Association Board, or our design committee specifically. So we also want to recognize, we have a couple of volunteers with us, so I want to recognize Miss Terry and Miss Kate for helping with this project. They were both really big in getting this through, so thank you guys.
Thank you. Oh, and staff. And staff. So Ashley and I were tag teaming a lot, but Madison, Janet, Miss Laura, Miss Robin, and Andrew also were on the team. Okay, so this is our awesome artist. This is a duo. They are individual mural artists, but they tag team on some murals in the past, and we're going to tell you a little bit about them. So the committee again met in February and then got the selection down. These artists rose to the top because they were clear and precise style that they both have together. And then they had a great element of that pop story, but they also had a great way of telling a story through a mural. And that resonated with us.
So we want to introduce Switch and Carla. So they're actually watching online, so everybody wave to them on YouTube. So Switch and Carla met in 2021 via Instagram over their shared love of art and a mutual respect for each other's artistic style. They became fast friends and have supported one another in their individual mural projects, but have always had a desire to collaborate on a project together. In January, the opportunity arose to work on a couple of large-scale murals for the Dodd Creative Group here in Charlotte. As expected, they made a really good partnership and decided to apply for our call for artists for the mural. Switch has a BFA in graphic design, and then he has a vibrant pop art style where he creates a lot of original characters and fonts, and then he's really skilled at spray paint. That's typically what he uses in his murals. Carla's style leans more towards a painterly realism with a pop art inspiration, and she utilizes a mixture of spray paint and hand-painted elements to create her murals. So these guys are widely experienced together. They're really excited to merge their perspectives, and they have over 15 years of experience painting large murals between the two of them. We are really excited, or they're really excited to celebrate Waxhaw's past, present, and future in a colorful and welcoming design that's the perfect photo op destination for visitors and residents alike. We really feel like we found the perfect artist team. They have been like such a joy to work with through all of our revisions and changes. They have been so responsive and really helped teach us how
exciting too about it,
and helped us teach us how to do a mural program. So like I said, our committees worked really hard in refining our theme, and when we met in late March, we refocused on that theme. And as we had that conversation among PAC, the design committee, and our downtown board, we really thought, like, what do we want our first mural to be? Like, what do we want that theme to be? And so we really thought, where did Waxhaw begin, and what is that story that we want to tell? So what we came to was a train story. As we sat around that table at the meeting place, we all talked about our individual train stories. I know you guys have them, but I remember 3 years ago when my husband and I were trying to decide if we were going to move across the country to move to Waxhaw. We came down. Our flight landed. We immediately drove to downtown Waxhaw. We popped in at Cork and Ale, and we were just shocked and floored at how busy downtown was on a Sunday afternoon. There were kids all over the place with their ice cream, and we had the pleasure of watching a train go by our first time downtown. And to see all of the kids just run over to the train and get really excited, that was something that really made us fall in love with Waxhaw immediately. And so that was my train story, but I want to let Dina kind of tell her experience with the trains downtown too.
So, further back in time, 17 years ago, I brought my 3 little ones at the time, now they're all bigger than I am, downtown. And we went immediately to the Bed Village and was waiting for the train to come by. Jack wasn't even a year old yet, and he's junior in high school now. And their excitement, because we didn't have that where we previously lived at, and their just joy of being that close to that huge transportation of having the train come through right downtown town, and being able to see that, and that was oh, this is where my home is now. And so that was huge for us. Anna, my middle child, just celebrated her first year of marriage. I brought her down on her wedding day to the bridge for us to take our pictures there with her. And this is her home. This is a piece of our family. And that's another way this piece of history in the mural is going to be represented in that. Jack just went to prom. We were downtown in his Pinky Blinder suit So he looked old-timey, doing his prom pictures on the bridge. We happen to have a train that come through as well. It's just one of those, it resonates. Everybody has a train story. All of our families here in Waxhaw have a train story, and we want to represent that in our first mural.
So we really wanted a design, like we said, connected to people. So we're going to show you the design now, and I want you guys to think about how that connects with your, how that evokes emotion for you for your first train memory.
Yes.
So
Here we go.
So here we go. Here's the design that Switch and Carla came up with. Again, we worked through 5 designs to get to this one, really refined with our committees through all of those meetings. The title of this is Days of Old, Days of New. The idea that, you know, we're celebrating our history there with the old buildings, with the pedestrian bridge, as well as the Waxhaw lettering, but also you've got those kids in there too. And that's really what our future is here in Waxhaw. So, like we said, this took a lot of investment from our volunteers and our artists to get here. It evokes a memory. I see myself watching this happen. One of the fun things about it too, the more you look at it, the more
things you see,
the more you can find. There's lots of little hidden treasures in it.
So you'll see a nod to some taglines of the past. You'll see, to the point where I know our people are out in the TV land, but on the children there are what is it?
It's t-shirt.
T-shirt.
Sure.
It has trains on it. And then the little girl with the camera actually has a train in the picture, in the camera. And then there's sayings all around the mural itself.
They all tie back to a lot of our old taglines that we had here in town. So we wanted to come up with a theme that you just kept coming back for more, always learning and finding something new as you looked at it.
And of course the water tanks in the background, which will line up perfectly where we were standing at the building. Everything lines up where the train is going to be right behind our heads, and then great photo op to represent Waxhaw, but also bring that cultural piece that we want for downtown. Okay? So, we're here tonight, and we're looking to move forward with the mural project. We have installation scheduled for the first week in May, and it working on during Kaleidoscope, so people can get educated as well as looking how the process happens, because that's another piece of this story, is educating our citizen on public art and how that works. And then we're going to highlight it at Jammin' and First Fridays. And then in the next 10 years, we'll make that decision of either de-installation of the piece or restoring the piece to kind of like bring up the color again, and then we'll move on from there.
So what we're asking tonight is we're looking for a motion to approve the final mural design for our new mural.
Any questions?
I just wanted to thank everyone for working so hard, and the two of you tag teaming. You make a great team, and
We do.
that's a lot of hours worth of work of volunteers. It's not easy to get volunteers all the time, so I just wanted to thank everyone involved, and it looks great.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good job.
Question?
I don't know if I'd be a jerk or too much of an engineer if I said the water tower's on the wrong side.
Okay.
The buildings are actually a representation. There aren't specific buildings downtown. It's just a representation.
I'm just thinking relative to the bridge and the direction the train's going, your visibility of the town.
You are being. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Remember,
We did
I know.
clarify
wrong side.
Yeah, we did clarify with the artist at our last meeting, because that was a concern that some of our committee members had.
It did come up.
That it wasn't in the right perspective. But they did say they did not take like a shot of downtown. They just used brick buildings and made it look. But
it's
yeah, it's the feel of the building. It's not exact.
Okay, so I'm a jerk. Check.
Yeah.
No. You're good. You're good.
Thank you. Just like I had to scratch it. Sorry.
And
Okay.
Yep. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
All ready? So, can I get a motion to approve the finalist?
Motion to approve the final mural design named Days of Old, Days of New themed Our Train Story.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is a great mural, though. I really like it, though.
Yay! Cool. Thank you, guys. We just a reminder of our mission and how this accomplishes it. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec's mission.
Yes.
You can read from that.
Yeah, it's okay. I got it. But the reason why we wanted to say our mission and visions is because we do align. And the mission of the Park and Rec Department provides that education and that cultural opportunities that is so important to us and to the community, and it promotes that healthy lifestyle, excellent quality of life, safe environment for all our citizens' means and abilities.
And our vision for the Downtown Waxhaw Association is iconic. Downtown Waxhaw is a small town steeped with historic character and is the premier destination in Union County to experience authentic craftsmanship and culture. And that, this really helps make us a destination in the area, especially for our artistic culture that we have. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great job. Mr. James Kelly. You are one of the last people before I call for an order to adjourn.
I'll try to make it quick.
That would be awesome.
This is the first reading proposing an amendment to Section 66-63 of the Code of Ordinances. This is for loading and unloading zones. Ultimately, these zones and areas aid to regulate larger vehicle parking and provide clarity on food truck utilization and to provide that opportunity. Historically, we've had issues that were addressed on North Providence Street and East North Main with the utilization of these loading and unloading zones. In particular, we had different businesses over there in that location putting out cones in the street, reserving parking spaces for food trucks. Ultimately, moving toward what the proposed text amendment is, it would be adding similar type of issues going on here with people trying to reserve parking spaces, larger vehicles coming in, food trucks in the area. So the clear path forward for this at this current point in time is to simply provide an area for that utilization of loading and unloading ordinances. So here the red text is what is being proposed to be amended. So this location is located at North Church Street and West North Main Street, and it's right there next to Great Wagon Distillery. You can see that there's about 2 parking spaces impacted. Ultimately, people can still utilize these areas between the hours of 8 to 4. It's just that it's to promote expeditious loading and unloading of goods, services, that sort of thing, between those hours of 8 to 4. After 4 p.m., there is an opportunity for food trucks to utilize the parking space Monday through Friday, and without restrictions on weekends. So this is a simple fix to a best fit solution for this area, and we've seen it work historically. So requested action is just to provide any feedback that you may have on that proposed ordinance amending the regulation, and then it'll come back May 14th for the second reading and adoption.
Hey James, I think I might be the difficult one on this one. So I have had the opportunity to speak with some of the business owners on that block, and there is a separation with what the town's direction is and what the businesses want. So the way I see this is, it really isn't in alignment with what the businesses would like there. So I would highly encourage the town to have meaningful conversations with, like, Mary O'Neill's as an example.
Okay.
The insurance company that's right there, the ladies with the yarn, I would also like to encourage the town to maybe increase the code enforcement in the area, because there are often cones blocking off up to 5 parking spots along that entire street. The insurance company has elderly clients, and they're severely impacted with their ability to reach that. There's also an interesting consideration for this board too. I know we've talked in the past about food trucks, and maybe it's worthwhile, maybe this is an opportunity to revisit that, because what are we doing to support our local businesses if we're just allowing food trucks to come in and take businesses away from the restaurants there that are paying to maintain kitchens and staff and provide food. And so maybe there are some other considerations here, James, that we need to think about.
Sure.
That were brought to my attention, and so I promised them I'd bring it to the board today, and if the town can, let's have some meaningful conversations with them.
So let me propose this to the board. Instead of rushing to the May 14th BOC meeting, how about we get with those property owners, talk with them, and then come back at a reasonable time once we've had those conversations?
I'm all for that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Jason. I had the opportunity to speak to the same people. I guess we were busy. And yes, I didn't know that elderly people still went in and paid their insurance bills. Apparently it's a thing, and parking has been an issue. And we do pay a lot of money to provide parking for our residents, and I wouldn't want to take prime real estate away for people that could use it. And specifically on that side, it is level. There's no stairs there, and so for someone who has difficulty walking, it would be a great place for them to park if there was an available spot. And there was also some hubbub about some businesses saying, well, if they could put out a cone, then I'm going to put out a cone, and maybe we could just alleviate that tension if we could discuss this further. And again, I agree, look at that food truck issue and come up with something else.
Sure. I see Ashley standing behind me. Do you want to add something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will note, when Great Wagon Road opened, food trucks are a really important part of their business. So they did have 2 cones that they were putting out to reserve spaces. That was an issue, and so we asked them to move them so they are no longer putting cones out during the day. So those are supposed to be moved.
Yeah, I saw them this morning.
Yeah. Were they out in the middle? Yeah. So
it's taking up the entire
spot.
Street. So that's why I suggested that code enforcement visit, and it's not proper.
Yeah. So this would eliminate the cones altogether, which is great. And I did look at some numbers when we did our market analysis study before. So our restaurants are really busy downtown. So there is currently a $122 million demand for restaurants within 5 miles of downtown Waxhaw, but we're only meeting $61 million of that demand. So that gives us a $61 million gap. So that's telling us that our restaurants that we have aren't able to even meet the demand that we have, and that's why food trucks are important, especially for those businesses that have that don't serve food, that aren't able to serve food. So that's kind of where this came from with that distillery.
The business owners I spoke with also were concerned about loss of parking spaces, because that particular area is prime for parking, and there's some people who are elderly or whatever who can't park far away and then walk into the area. Yep. So that they lose out. And then they also sort of had a perception that probably wrongly, that the town's favoring certain businesses. That we don't want that.
Yep.
We want them to feel like they're all being treated.
Absolutely. And this is something that we did do on East North Main and North Providence. It was a similar issue that we had over there, and it did end up solving the cone problem.
But on that side, that was where Dream Chasers was. The sign there actually says loading zone, I think 8 to 4, and then it says food trucks only.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, if I were a business owner that had a kitchen and was employing staff, and that's an extra expense. And now I can't get, as much parking as I normally could if it's a first come, first serve. I don't know that I can support that.
Yeah, go ahead.
To provide some clarity on that question, going back to the existing ordinance, section 66-63. So you can see, if I just back up a slide, so there are 3 different areas for that, for where people can just come regular 8 to 4. There are only 2 areas, or 1 existing, 1 being proposed for those food trucks. So that difference in signage there may just have been a different area. We'll go back and take a look to make sure that signage is correct. But ultimately, I suspect that it's just a difference of areas.
Yeah, and I think the theme, James, is exactly that. It does seem like there is a middle ground, but a meaningful conversation, I think, with the folks there. We really need to be focusing on supporting the local businesses first, and then food trucks second. It is what it is. They don't live here, so I'd like to see our local businesses prosper.
I agree. So we'll go back, we'll have further conversations with these business owners and see if we can come to an equitable solution. And if so, then we'll bring this back to the board at that current point in time. Okay.
And one comment that I could add just real quick, if you go back to the graphic where you show the size of that parking loading zone that you're talking about, let's see, what is it, slide 3?
This one?
Have we looked at optimizing that zone such that it's big enough for a food truck and not much else?
So yes, we have. Like over on East North Main, 2 parking spaces parallel generally will accommodate that food truck length. So in this particular area, it would just be 2 proposed parking spaces being gored out.
So it's not necessarily the whole length of the building.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
And there could be opportunity to add some ADA accessible spaces along that route too. That
Good idea.
Really good.
I guess maybe one more suggestion, maybe there's an area that food trucks could go that would not be on the main street or the side street there. I mean, we do have that gravel lot.
Yeah,
If it's necessary, then that would be an option. But
the current food truck guidelines say that a food truck can park anywhere downtown as long as they're not taking up more than 3 spaces. So that's the current rule. So at this point, there's nothing stopping a food truck from parking
Anywhere.
in any public parking spot in front of any business anywhere in downtown.
maybe we have to change that, I guess. We'll look at it.
Thank you. Next up is leadership reports.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I will zip through, and just a reminder that engineering also has a couple items that they would like to share tonight as well. So Shred Day results, we had a successful day out there a couple Saturdays ago, 162 cars served. It is a popular event when the weather is nice. Really thank all the staff and civilian volunteers that were out there helping us that day. Reminder, you have a couple of special meetings next week on Monday, April 29th, and then Wednesday, May 1st. Tomorrow we will publish the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget. We decided to wait till tomorrow morning so that you wouldn't have 2 agendas, trying to discern 2 agendas at one time. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow morning. And last but not least, the NC legislature starts their short session tomorrow, April 24th. The latest revenue forecast has a $1.4 billion surplus that reflects the continued economic growth in North Carolina. So hopefully there will be some more opportunities for appropriations this year. I know our lobbyist is already working on getting her appointments with our legislative delegates, so we will keep our fingers crossed. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Good to know. Next up, Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's getting late. I'll be quick. May is Historic Preservation Month. The theme is People Saving Places. So staff's working with comms on social media posts. We want to feature some of our HPC members and facade grant recipients, so look out for those posts, like and share. Also, they're preparing for the Kaleidoscope. The HPC will have a tent. They're going to hand out information on our facade grant program, and also we're working on a page on our website, a Tell Your Story, so not just the recorded history, but people can also get on and write in a message that can go on the website. So they'll be out there doing that. Town has gone under contract with a third-party consultant to undergo a cost to serve analysis. It was brought up quite a few times tonight. This is to understand the financial performance of various land use categories, help the town make informed zoning decisions, formulate a break-even number per land use, and better understand services and infrastructure required for existing and new developments. We are going to have that kickoff meeting on Friday, expected a 60-day draft return, 90 days to get a presentation to you all. And then last of all, the mayor has asked me to put together this report. It's number of existing homes in Waxhaw. There's 6,954. The graphic below that shows number of home starts per year for the last 10 years. As you can see, in 2022 we had 143, last year 14, and this year so far we've had 3. However, we have a lot of projects down the pipeline, which is indicated on the graphic to the right. So we average about 260 homes per year over the last 10 years. We have 1,434. That's number of lots approved. That number could go down. That's a preliminary plat approval. During construction plan phase, sometimes they lose lots once it's engineered. The middle number, 1,577, approximate number of lots under review. That includes Yarborough, which is a by right subdivision. Emerson Park and the Duet are both conditional zoning, so those would have to be approved by you all. And then lots under construction, 416, that's Preserve Phase 1, Old Town Village, and the Blythe Mill Townhome Project. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right. A lot of growth baked into the cake. Next up, Engineer Orion Holtai. Thank you. You were going to be Hotley for a second there.
Yeah, I've been called that. Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. A little bit behind. We haven't had an engineering report in a while, so I might have a couple things that you might already know. But NCDOT is currently doing the bridge inspections, or hired somebody out to do the town bridge inspections. There's 7 bridges that they require us to do, and an additional that had been on the list that we are doing. Their bridges are bridges that span over 20 feet, waterways that expand over 23 over through the road. So those will be deemed done. We have 2 that have had the responses, and there'll be some construction down there on Sharon, and then there's some signs that got to go up on Howie at the south end of town. Engineering manual was posted last week, so you can all go online and see the new exciting updates for the engineering manual. The key items are one of the key items is the road pavement cross-section requirement, so we've upped the cross-section requirement for developers, so our roads are going to last a little bit longer. We're going to have higher quality roads. The RFBs, this is one you might already know about, so the downtown, that was installed across Broome at East North Main. So that RFB is there, the flashing beacon. The Torrey Path is now open. And finally, the library is open, and the sidewalk is completed to connect to the library.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Board of Commissioners, last chance.
I have something to say.
Oh, yes.
As a member on this board and a commissioner, we interact with each other and with the public. The public has a right to stand at the podium and address us, ask us questions. Sometimes those questions can be deliberately not nice. but we sit here and respectfully we take the questions. On this board, we have the ability to interact with each other and ask questions. When I ask a question tonight or any other night, my questions are not intentionally disrespectful to anyone, but they are a question, in a form of a question. And that is what we as commissioners have the right to clarify anything that we do not understand. So as a member of this board, to be told that who am I to ask a question or grill anyone, it was not grilling, it was for clarification. There's a difference, and that is within my right as a member to sit here and be able to ask that question of a fellow board member, anyone on this dais, or anyone who is standing and who has presented something for clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Can I get a motion to adjourn? All in favor?